Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year to you, and hope everyone had a good holiday, and welcome back to Pasco County. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners meeting of January 8, 2019, and I'd like to remind everyone to silence all their electronic devices. Please stand with me for the invocation and pledge.
Please bow your heads. O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now is the time for public comment. Citizens are, excuse me. Madam Clerk, roll call.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. District 4, Commissioner Wells. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Here.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. Now is the time for public comment. Citizens are given an opportunity to comment on any item coming before the board during the public comment section. The board also takes public comment on items to be placed on a future board agenda or other business under their purview. Public comment for public hearing items are taken during those individual public hearings beginning at 1:30 p.m. Individuals speaking during public comment will be given 3 minutes to speak. After stating your name and address to the clerk, the timer located on the podium will start a countdown. After 2 minutes, one beep will sound, the light will change from green to yellow, and you know at that time you have 1 minute left. After the time is up, two beeps will sound, and the light will change from yellow to red, indicating the 3 minutes are up, and you'll close for your comments. I do not believe anyone signed up for public comment. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak that did not sign up? If not, we will go on to consent agenda. I have a pull sheet, and on the pull sheet are, as listed below, C19, C7, C26, C31, C23, and C11. Is there any other items that the commissioners would like to pull at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion on the remainder of the consent items.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. C19. Barbara Hensman.
Good morning. This is just a pull and revise. The original document was replaced with one that had a signature. That's the only change to the document. There's no substantive changes, so it's good as it is, and the clerk has the original copy.
She needs to give her name, and you need to give your name and address. That needs to be turned up.
Her name and title.
Name and title.
Just state your name and title, please.
Barbara Hitzman, and Human
That's good.
Resources Director.
Perfect.
Okay.
Noted changes?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, C7.
That one's just withdrawn.
Oh, excuse me, withdrawn. C26.
Morning, Bob Gorick, Budget Director. C26 was pulled and revised. An attachment for this item was inadvertently omitted when it was submitted. The attachment has been provided to you in your package, and we recommend for approval.
Move approval of the noted addendum?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you. You're going to stay with us. C31.
Good morning. C31, we had pulled to revise to correct the Scribner's error. That correction has been made, and we do recommend for approval.
Move approval of the noted changes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. C23
Is withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
is withdrawn. C11 is withdrawn.
There we go. Include your consent.
We'll go to regular items.
R1.
Okay. R1. We're moving through this meeting pretty quickly.
Good morning. My name is David Engel. I am the Economic Growth Manager for Pasco County. It's my pleasure to appear before the board today to present our first redevelopment revolving loan application promulgated from our newly initiated redevelopment loan program. The business and property that we are seeking for review and approval on is the Point Distillery. They are a target industry as determined by the Pasco Economic Development Council. Their business is to co-pack, distill, develop brands, bulk sales, and blend spirits. The property is located on the westerly side of Little Road in the Harbors Market area. The redevelopment loan program is for $53,020. This will permit the business to secure a $66,000 product labeling machine. It's a 60-month fixed rate loan at 3.5%. It's secured by the equipment that we will be purchasing, and there's additional security over and above the loan balance. Oh, there it is, okay. The benefits of the loan are plentiful. It'll allow the manufacturer to expand their manufacturing capacity and volume. It will enhance the production capability to allow different styles of containers to be labeled. Because of that capability and enhanced production, the manufacturer will be permitted to expand sales into international markets that have other types of manufacturing requirements for labels. There'll be an immediate positive impact. The business's book of business is extensive and allow them to meet current demand, and it will support a sustainable business model for the company, and businesses good enough that they're exercising an option to purchase the building in which they're situated in at this time. The next slide is just some pictures. Thank you. The label of one of their products is a rum product. It indicates that it's located in Newport Richey, Florida. And the picture or slide on the right is the initial phase of their production line in their facility. We enthusiastically recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve and authorize the chairman to execute the loan and promissory note between Pasco County and the Point Distillery for $53,020.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Engel, I greatly appreciate you bringing this forward, and we talked about this a long time ago, but those who may not be familiar, this distillery's been there for several years. It's a multi-million-dollar facility. They've actually participated, the previous owners of this building, with Taste of Pasco, and the liqueurs that they were bringing out of it at that meeting at that event was amazing. So to see them bring this building back to life is great. To see that they're going to make this move, this is a nice small investment for us to make this happen and help them along, but it will help them along tremendously. So I fully support it and move approval.
Yeah, so I'll second this with a discussion or a question.
Okay.
Just tell me a little bit more about the market areas this loan would be available in.
Well,
I know the Harbors District,
Yes,
obviously,
Commissioner.
obviously it's one.
This is a county-wide program.
Yes.
It's we're piloting in the market, the Harbors Market area initially.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to rehabilitate and create brownfields of non-residential properties that are blighted to establish a redevelopment momentum in our existing corridors. We'll be looking at Route 41.
Okay.
We'll be looking at areas over here at Dade City and the Zephyr Hills area as well.
Okay, okay. So for example, just use this as an example, the old car lot down the street, I know you're working with you and Melanie are working with the investors there. That's a brownfield where a block away from here, the car lot is. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm not. Melanie Romanoli is handling our brownfields program.
Okay, but that, my assumption is that would be
If it's,
something that would
if it's
be-
not in the CRA area within the city limits, and it's in the unincorporated area,
Okay.
we could use funds to rehabilitate and do capital.
So it has to be in an unincorporated Pasco County. It can't be in an incorporated Pasco County within a CRA.
The property you're talking about is in the city.
It is in the city, I know. So that wouldn't
Yeah,
be eligible,
Okay.
then, is what you're
No,
saying?
it will not.
Okay.
right.
All right. Just trying to get my ducks in a row for the future. Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
any other questions?
Mr. Engel, this is also a target industry program, is it not?
Yes, it was certified by the Pasco.
I understand that this one is, but to answer the commissioner's question, it would have to be a target industry that was locating for this funding source to be used as well.
Well, this is a single loan that we have before the board today. We're developing guidelines for the program, and as drafted as part of our RLS, it's to rehabilitate non-residential properties, and there wasn't a requirement for a target industry. It was to improve the economic disposition for growth along our corridors.
Okay. I sent a quick email a second ago anyway, so maybe I would like some more information, more detailed information about the program. I'm sure all the other commissioners would too. Just for the fact of, many of us have meetings, scheduled meetings with people that are looking to do business in Pasco County, and we'd like to show them everything that's offered in the county. So if you can give us, kind of a white paper or whatever you may have on this, that'd be great.
Well, Commissioner,
Write down.
once the county attorney's office has reviewed and approved our guidelines and program specs, we want to come before the board once again and have you review and approve.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. Well, how about just more details on this one then, what we just did, and then that'll help us in the future.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
It's a good thing.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Starkey. We're on R2. Good morning.
Good afternoon, good morning, rather, I'm sorry, I'm so used to presenting in the afternoon. Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Today I present to you an introduction ordinance, a change to the Land Development Code, amending Section 901.8, pedestrian facilities, and creating new subsections in 901.6. Thank you so much. And the proposed amendment actually creates a program within the Land Development Code to allow brick paver sidewalks and driveway aprons. These are just connections to the right-of-way. Currently, the Land Development Code actually prohibits the usage, not necessarily prohibits, but gives standards as to what type of material sidewalks and driveway aprons are made out of, and it does not state that they can be made out of brick pavers. So currently, the process that we use in order for our citizenry and our developers to install brick paver driveway connections is that we ask them to do an alternative standard and get into a license and maintenance agreement with Pasco County. So the proposed amendment sets clear standards for paver driveways and sidewalks in the county's right-of-way. And these amendments, we've worked through the horizontal roundtable and the interested parties meeting for groups for about a year or so. It was presented to them on April 18th and on December 19th. We got some significant comments, and we've worked with them throughout the year 2018. And we're ready to bring these forward to the local planning agency and the Board of County Commissioners for adoption. So today we're asking that you accept the proposed amendments and that you direct the Planning and Development Department to conduct public hearings on the matter, where that it'll go to the LPA on January 24th, 2019 at 1:30 Newport Richey. First reading before the Board of County Commissioners on February 5th, 2019, 1:30 Dade City. And final adoption on February 19th, 2019, 1:30 in Newport Richey. And we are here for any questions you may have.
Ms. Starkey?
I did talk to Denise yesterday, but and I'm all in favor of this. There is an issue that the citizens in my district have brought to my attention, and that is that you can take out all of your landscaping and landscape your whole front yard in paver bricks, and it doesn't count against the, where there may be restrictions where you can't cover, you have to leave, I think, 20% permeable in your yard, but we don't count paver bricks as a non-permeable surface. We count them as permeable, so you can have paver bricks and no landscaping. So I do want to see that get fixed, but I understand it can't be fixed with this fix.
And as I was explaining this, these sections of the Land Development Code specifically talk about the connections to the right-of-way. And Will Poon, who's our engineer and head of the technical team, might be able to discuss some proposed modifications to 902.2, which is the stormwater management and the lot coverage and things like that in the Land Development Code, and something to take into consideration when that's being looked at.
Yeah, but about once a week, I get contacted by someone in Gulf Harbors where people have taken out all the landscaping and just put paver block on 100% of their property, and so I hope we do fix that soon.
Okay.
I would move approval.
I'll second with the discussion.
Okay.
Denise, on these, the connection where the sidewalk's gonna be pavers, et cetera, the only concern I have is over time, the pavers tend to settle. Now, we know when certain cracks happen, it gets dangerous, we then reach out to the associations, or they reach out to go replace those and get them fixed. I worry about how you're gonna just regulate that they maintain themselves in a, you're gonna get some depressions. What's gonna be the trigger point to get them out there and do maintenance?
Right.
How are you gonna monitor that?
Sure. So within the actual proposed language, it talks about that the maintenance responsibilities and all that information. Regarding the settling, I believe that, and I'm looking behind me because this is kind of a question for our engineer, that there are specific materials that are to be used, and also regarding the sidewalk, it does have to also be ADA compliant, and that's within the proposed ordinance as well. So I think, saved by the engineer behind me, Mr. Will Poon.
Good morning, Commissioner. Will Poon, PE, Current Planning. It's a very good question. And as I outlined in the ordinance too, dealing with maintenance, obviously is the responsibility of the homeowner and so forth. And then there is, in the ordinance itself, it says if necessary, the county may need to come in and fix any paver that aren't fixed to our standards, which is basically as outlined as concrete or asphalt. So similar to sidewalk pavers, if the homeowner or the CDD or HOA can't repair to ADA standards, then we could go in there, if necessary, to reconstruct it back as concrete sidewalk, as typically in our LDC that allows for that. So we get the option, as also outlined in the ordinance, to inform the homeowner to fix it if there's an issue, and if they don't, we also have the right to fix it back to being a concrete sidewalk.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Pass. All right, we go on to R3.
Good morning, Mike Carvalho, Public Infrastructure. Item R3 is the confirmation of the Director for the Utilities Engineering and Contracts Management Department, Mr. Charles Cullen, who's behind me here. Charles has worked for Pasco County for almost 4 years, serving in the capacity as an engineering manager over our Planning and Service Commitment Division. He's brought strong leadership to that division, as well as technical sophistication to really help move our planning efforts forward. He's a graduate of the University of Central Florida, but he makes up for that with private sector experience.
So you do realize you offended me when you said that, in addition to him, right? Don't I?
Reaching a little too
Charge
far
on.
today.
Hey, father of the night, too.
That's right.
But private sector experience with a number of municipalities as well. In order to fill that position, we did conduct a wide search consisting of a resume review committee where we narrowed it down, and then additionally had subsequent interviews with that said committee before bringing forward some very experienced candidates who met with the engineering department staff, our operations and maintenance staff members, as well as the directors. And I'm happy to say that it was a unanimous decision that Mr. Cullen be appointed into this position. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to him if I could say a few words, Charles.
Okay.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Charles.
Good morning. Go Knights.
Go Knights. There you go. What year did you graduate? What year did you graduate?
2000.
Oh, you're a young man. Okay.
You're older now?
The Pasco County Utilities Department is great. We've got a great vision for the future, for serving our dynamic growth with our most important resources to make that happen. But most importantly, we got a team of men and women that do outstanding work for our ratepayers every single day. It'd be a great pleasure to serve them in this role. I thank you for your consideration and wish everyone a happy new year.
Move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome.
Aye. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
We need more Knights in this county.
Yeah, I think that's all of the regular items.
Did you get points? Extra
Who set
points
this
during the
agenda
hiring
up?
process?
We have veterans points.
Is
I don't
this
think
going
we
to be,
get Knights points.
is this
Although
going to
I
be one of
think
those
our
meetings you
HR
get done by 10:30 or? So now we'll go into our old business, and I'll start with Commissioner Moore.
You know what? I really don't.
You're lost for words?
No, I am a loss for words, yeah. I really don't have anything today, but, I'm looking forward to a great 2019 for this board, so let's come out strong and do great things for our citizens, and it'll be a good year.
All right, great. Commissioner Starkey.
I don't have much either. I can't recall if I had been to Indiana. Have I been back from Indiana since a board meeting? I know I missed one. So it's the first. So, as you know, I was invited by Mr. The CEO of Ashley Furniture, I can't remember his name, Mr. Wanek. After they came to tour AmSkills a couple weeks ago, they had a trip planned with a bunch of leaders from the Tampa Bay area to go up and look at the workforce training programs of the state of Indiana. And so Tom Madonna and I were able to go up and jump on that tour, and very interesting to see what state of Indiana is doing to build their manufacturing jobs and keep their manufacturing jobs. And we were able to talk about our program up there, and we're just gaining more and more notoriety with our program here. And this week in the Wall Street Journal was a big article on the German apprenticeship program, so I will have that sent to all of you. And so sorry I missed the meeting, but it was a wonderful opportunity to keep learning about how we can build more manufacturing jobs here. And I'll be attending a meeting in the next few days with a company founded by Steve Wozniak from Apple on workforce training as well here in Tampa. So I think that's all I have. What?
We have a slide for you that you sent us.
Oh, yeah. So I've been sending photos in to FAC for years and wondering why we never get in the calendar. So I finally figured out last year that they have a theme. No, I never knew there was a theme. So we asked the county to gather up some photos, and Michelle sent a couple photos in. And one of our photos, this one here from Dade City, was selected, and so we are in the calendar, and everyone should be getting one from FAC. If you haven't received one yet,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't remember which month we are, but the bottom photograph is the one that they selected, and so we're in the current calendar for FAC.
I remember Meridian Street. Not quite that far back.
It's a really cool picture if you get to look at it.
Is that you waiting for the train, Ron?
Yeah, that's me. That's me. Oh, you're gonna pay. That's good. Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you. I actually have a few different things. We have a gentleman in Gulf Harbors who's been waiting to put a dock in, hasn't got permission for it. And part of the problem is it's a very unique situation where people to the inside part of the canal, closer to the Gulf, have built and they've blocked the access for boats from the edge of the canal, where he's kind of in the, call it the cul-de-sac, where it comes out. And I know the attorney's office has been working, I know staff's been working on it, but it's been going on for at least, for I know, that I've been involved with like 6 or 8 months, and they had some meetings this past week, and I don't see any resolution. I think our county attorney's familiar with it, and I'd like to get some discussion
I think
going
he
on.
can answer that, so.
Can you tell me where that is, since it's in my district?
Sand-Dollar? Sand-Dollar Court, I think, was the,
Oh, that's on your side.
the address that you had shown in the email. We did talk about it at Ordinance Review Team this last week. There was a proposal for an amendment to the ordinance that would allow a dock if approved by the board. That is a longer that's still, it's gonna be at least 3 months to get that before you, but it would solve the problem if adopted by the board.
Well, let's say we move that forward, and if there's a way we can get him permission to start building his dock anyway, so we get positioned, that may work out.
Well, the issue is that we found no way to allow it under the current ordinance, so a permit couldn't be issued because it would violate the land development code until the land development code is changed.
It's gonna work out. It's gonna take 3 to 4 months to get it done.
But it's the same section of the code that several changes are being proposed for. You had asked me to do an amendment to the maintaining of seawalls. That just happens to be the same section of the code.
Right.
So there are about 3 different things that are sort of being lumped together, but we hope to get that back to the board as expeditiously as possible.
All right, so let me just ask if we're gonna put those 2 things in. I think I talked about seawalls being allowed to be to the highest one or even higher. Is that gonna be part of that?
And I'm going to tell you again, that's Mr. Rosenthal and
Separate thing.
and the
Okay.
building official. That really is not the land development code
Okay.
that I can tell. That
Okay.
is the issue about how high you can build your seawall. That's a building construction issue versus the land development code is the regulatory seawall process.
All right, well, if we can move it forward, then.
Seawalls and docks happen to be together in one section of the land development code.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's gonna
Mr.
move
Chairman.
forward like that. I think that's acceptable.
Commissioner, do you mind if I jump on a little bit?
No, please do.
Okay. You know what I'm gonna ask.
And that's the third thing. That's
I was gonna ask, was that, okay.
Roofs
Our
over docks is also.
Roofs in the lakes and the docks, and
Yes.
that's part of that.
Yep.
And we figure that will come to us,
3 to 4 months.
Well, ultimately, you'll get an introduction that'll either be the next meeting or the following meeting.
okay.
So it's
Good.
I'm really trying to get it to the next meeting because I promised the seawall collapsing piece to come to the next meeting.
Okay.
It may be the first meeting in February.
Okay, so it's coming.
Okay, that'd be
Excellent.
good.
All right, thank you.
That works. Anything else?
Sorry to
Mr.
steal your
Chairman,
thunder down there.
could I hear again what the problem is with building the dock? What's keeping him from building a dock?
He wants to go out more than 1/3 into the canal.
Oh, okay.
But he's
But
on,
he's at the
but
end of-
he's
he's at the
on
end of the
the
canal.
dead end of the canal. And what has happened is that several of his neighbors have built
To their
more than a
1/3?
third
Oh,
And their grandfather.
because they were prior to the '07 ordinance.
This is gonna correct that, so.
yeah,
For him.
okay. I just didn't hear what the issue
Yeah,
is.
and he's at the end of the canal, so it doesn't affect anybody past him. He's the end.
So let me ask a question then. Could he, if he didn't go to that third and just stuck to, let's say, stuck to the third, could he at least build that part of it and then add the other part on later?
So if he was to build the dock, okay, I don't know the exact specifics, but if the dock
Okay.
component
That's,
was within 1/3, and it's the lift that he wants to add later that would be needing the amendment, he could submit for the
First
for the
part.
wooden construction
Okay.
first, and then come back in and permit the lift, because I think, based on the conversations we've had, I think it's the lift that actually sticks out into the canal.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I think that's a call for the building official or whoever is permitting docks currently, but that would seem to be reasonable.
All right, I think
Okay.
that can work.
We can look at that and,
Okay.
yeah.
We do have a couple of things. I think we all saw an email from people from Zephyr Shores asking about the county commission coming back out to talk about the acquisition of Zephyr Shores, Palm Terrace, and Jasmine Lakes. At least I got one. I thought it was to all of us. But they were looking to have a meeting, so it'd be under you, Commissioner Oakley. But at the same time, I did have Gulf Highlands, the neighbors there want to have me come out Thursday, so I want to bring staff out to try to get an update on the FGA to try to find out where we're at and how we can keep it moving forward.
Could, you need Mike Caballa to say something about that, or?
Mike Ken, we talked about it a little bit, so.
What time are you gonna have that meeting? You know?
I think they have it at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we would be happy to speak to the community
I might could be there too, so,
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
on the process and everything concerning the
You're
FGA
prepared
systems.
to talk to them about that now?
We can certainly, yes, of course.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
All right, very good. Thank
That
you.
sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
And Mike, while you're here, Mike, I want to thank you. Well, we're going to talk about Little Road. From south of 52 down to Ridge Road, there's been a series of potholes been probably patched in for the past 12 years over and over again. And the staff does a good job every time they're out there. During the Christmas break, when the asphalt plant was shut down, it really got bad. And then when the
Yeah.
rains came in, they actually did sun patch and then flushed right out. I know we get a long-term fix in, we're going to kind of adjust our plan, but I just want to let the board know that it is a very important road. I want to thank staff for getting out there so quick on January 2nd to get that rolling and get that done. But it is something that we need to address,
Yeah.
I think, once and for all. What's the issue out there? How do we need to fix it? If it's full depth it needs, so be it. If it's just, can study it, but at least you get the short-term fix done, but having the long-term fix done and get that thing moved up is a great.
His folks are
plus.
on it, and we all have issues of potholes all over in my district also,
Yeah.
and they're working hard on trying to catch those up.
Yeah, they're doing a phenomenal job. This is just one
Yeah, they
of
are.
those.
That's
And you probably drive up Little Road from the north, so you get to see all that
You
patching.
see that, yeah.
It was really bad for a little stretch in there, but they did a phenomenal job getting out there and getting it done, so thank you.
Yes, our Public Works team is gracious of those compliments. They do work hard to do it, and they are making adjustments when it comes to arterials and collectors in terms of scheduled program maintenance, and as well as long-term asset management type techniques to manage our roads in the future. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Anything else?
I do have a few different communities we're gonna go see. They wanna talk more about dredging, so hopefully in the near future, we get something going more to the commission as far as what's going on. Right now, they are stuck in the Gulf Harbors in Hudson, but I think we do need a more comprehensive approach down the road. The previous meeting I had made mention, I was reading through the minutes, and I didn't make the motion, so I need to make the motion, I think, but I brought up the idea about changing the name back from Sunwest Park to Sunwest Beach. I'll just make a motion to do that, to change the name of Sunwest Park back to Sunwest Beach.
From Sunwest Park back to, was it named Sunwest Beach?
Initially, it was
before?
gonna be named Sunwest Beach. The operator, when they came in, they wanted to change the name to Sunwest Park because he didn't have the URL. I thought I had put that forward to see something on the agenda, but I didn't see it, and the way it was just listed on the minutes was just, I made the suggestion for it. So I want to take it a step further, at least bring the item back to the board to look at it.
Any discussion to that?
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a
A
second?
discussion.
Discussion.
I would like to hear from the Parks Department.
Kathy Pearson, Assistant County Administrator of Public Services. Keith and I spoke about this yesterday, and so I do know that he has some suggestions, maybe to just hold off a little bit for the RFP to go out for the commercial, but that's totally up to the board, and we will take the direction and bring back some of his comments to you at the next meeting if you would like.
I'm fine to bring it back for an agenda item, so it's fine.
Would that be okay? That's good. Okay.
Okay,
So
thank you.
so what do we do with our motion?
We'll
If you'll withdraw the
We
motion.
go
then-
withdraw the
I'll withdraw
motion
and bring it forward, that's
Yeah.
good.
and then bring it back. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Kevin.
Always call it some West Beach Park.
All right.
Anything else?
Do you think that could be misleading since it's a lake and not a, it's a lake, not,
There's lake beaches all
It's a
over.
beach, yeah.
yeah?
It's good
Call-
beach.
And they call it the beach?
Oh, yeah. All the way up, especially in the north and northeast there, on those lakes, they call it beaches.
I mean, like I said, I think we had it named properly before, we just kind of
Right.
went with the operator, but I think it's time to go
We
back.
definitely don't want to change that name and not get it right. We want it to be right.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing, I know Mr. Steinschneider is working with the team on LED signs to bring something back. Do you think we'll have it at the next meeting, or when do you think we'll have an agenda item on it? Or is it part of a workshop?
I would defer to Denise and Elizabeth on that one. I know
Which one's going to take
they've been
that?
working on it, but
Here we go.
Before I commit to a time frame, I had sent an email, actually it's been quite some time, to each individual board member separately, asking what type of technology you would be interested in seeing. Is it okay if I send that email, because I didn't hear back from the board, so would like to get a response to that, if possible? Because there's different types of technologies that can be used.
Okay, and I know there's one local attorney, Stacy Kemp, actually sent you something on what they're using in
Yes,
another city,
yeah.
whatever.
And that's at the very high end, and this reminds me of when I was a child. There's a difference between light bright, so I don't know if you remember the little, and then there's very high end, which is what Attorney Kemp sent. So I just wanted you to look at the different technologies and see what you had in mind.
So maybe if we could, I don't think we need a full workshop. Could you maybe show us in like a 15-minute presentation, we can talk about it?
Sure, do you want me to just reach out individually to you and just,
We can do that too, but I still would like to bring it forward as far as a conversation in front of the board.
okay.
Yeah.
To go forward. I do have a lot
Let's do both.
And I'll
Reach
just-
out to all of us and then bring it to the whole board.
Okay.
I do think it is a workshop discussion.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
would be a major change to our sign ordinance, which I think is better in a workshop.
And I think the board did give direction to bring it back, but it's been taking a long time, so you had a lot of people out there waiting. And I'll just give you another example. There's a place called the Stark Yard on US 19. They bring in great bands, great music from all over. They're struggling in their business because other than what they do for advertising to get people in from, Friday, Saturday concerts, they're dead. And they can't seem to get people to draw in. They don't know they're there. They drive by it. They bring all the people in. They bring tourism and people as far as, well, they've even said that overseas they've actually come to see certain bands, but from all around the area, outside the region, they'll come to this place to go. But he says, I've got to start studying my business model. If I had a sign out front, I could make my money during the week as well, instead of just having to depend on just that. So I've got to make that decision. He thinks an LED sign like they have elsewhere would be very helpful for him. And as far as the attorney goes, I've had many other businesses too that said they wanted to go do it, so I think it's definitely time that we do take a look at it, and whether it be through a workshop, whatever, I just want to see something happen quick. And I
Not
know the people-
everybody's going to want those signs because those signs are very expensive.
Oh, they are?
So not everybody can afford those signs. So it'll limit the amount of those signs.
All right, so maybe the next meeting, even if it's a 5-minute presentation, we'll get ready for a workshop after that?
Okay.
All right.
I think that was Denise's point, though, is some of the technology is very expensive, and if that's what you require, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
the other
if
technology-
if you're not specific, there's other technology that is cheaper that may not look as good
Yeah.
for the community.
That's why I said light bright, those
And that's
little
the point. So I think we
pegs,
need to,
yeah.
we need to event that, so that'd be good.
So I'll start by
reach out
re-emailing you
to
the
all-
different technologies and then discuss at the following board meeting on the 22nd?
Okay?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see
Okay.
what feedback you get, and then,
Okay.
we have a workshop scheduled for late February that actually probably be good timing to
Okay.
put this on that agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Biles?
All right, so on the topic of workshops, we're gonna based on where we are, we had one tentatively scheduled for next week. We're going to cancel that one. And the topics that we're going to be on that one, we're going to roll to that 26th February date. We're going to have with a fuller workshop, a longer day, but I think that makes sense on the 26th. So you'll see the cancellation coming for next week's workshop. And then we'll roll those topics into the 26th. It allows us a little more time to prepare. And based on the topics, we kind of needed that. And then we'll add this topic as well to that workshop.
Okay.
So that's one thing. We've spent a little time here talking about ordinance revisions and code revisions, and one of the things Ms. Steinstein and I have been kind of working on is taking that tier list that y'all had prioritized 2-3 years ago. I can't remember now. It was before I was here. We've knocked a lot of stuff off that list, but a lot of things have been added that have never been prioritized. So we're working on cleaning that up. And as we get that cleaned up, probably in the next week or two, we'll start sitting down with you and walking you through that tier list so that we can bring that back and you can reprioritize and make sure we refocus on the right things. Because there are a lot of, at least a half a dozen new initiatives that have been added to the list just in the last 6 to 9 months that have never been prioritized. And so we'll be bringing that back to you to kind of build that tier, because we only have a small bandwidth to work on these things. So we need to be working priority list. So we'll be doing that here in the next few weeks.
Oh, I'm not here February 26th. So can you hold off on that, on the sign one? Let me look here. I just got a message from my secretary. Yeah, I'm not here February 26th.
That's for the workshop?
Yeah, that was the one scheduled in February. So we'll work through scheduling wise.
Okay.
So that, and the last thing I have is, we with Kevin went to Tallahassee in September, and now as I'll let you know, a couple weeks ago, he's accepted the deputy director job up there, which once everything gets finalized and however they do that in Tallahassee, is kind of where he's going to end up. As part of that process, in about September, we started the process to recruit an emergency management director to run emergency management. And so we interviewed 7-8 people and went through that process and have select 3 internal, 4 external, all really good candidates, high quality candidates. And we really were looking for a good leader to lead a team that's probably already the best in the state. And that's just a matter of continuing that trajectory and continuing to be in the best in the state. And so as part of that, just want to let you know that we've selected Chief Andy Fossa to run that group. Emergency management, so he'll be shifting over from the fire rescue over to emergency management to run that. So, and if Andy's here if you want to say a couple words, but I'm jumping this on him in the last minute, but that's what you do in emergency management, right? So,
well, after 28 and a half years in fire rescue and having a very big passion for emergency management, and I've worked with them probably for the last 15 years very closely. I decided it was time for a career change. I'm not getting any younger, but the team that I'm working with now is phenomenal. They have, between bringing in grants, storm activations, deployments, they're unbelievable. And I got a strong team, and I have a very big vision for Pasco County and this team in emergency management. I got some big shoes to fill, but I believe we're going to push forward and make things really well for the county. And thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
So we're not going to call him chief anymore?
Grant
Grant. Did you get that on the record? Okay, good, excellent.
It's on the record, official.
So is part of anytime you have organizational change, you kind of take a pause and make sure you're still organized in the most efficient manner. And so we're kind of doing that right now with the public safety group to make sure that we are set up the best we can from an organizational perspective to be as successful as we can be in those groups. So we're kind of taking a little time to make sure that in whatever manner we organize those 4 groups going forward, that it's the most efficient for the organization and can deliver the best product to the people who live, work, and play in Pasco County. So more to follow on that in the future, but that's kind of right now we're kind of going through there, kind of asking, is this the right way to be organized? do we need that assistant county administrator position, or is there a better way to utilize that? Should these departments be in that group, or is there a better way to structure that? So always kind of take a time to pause and check those things out before you move forward when you have a chance to make an organizational change. So we're looking at that right now. So more to follow on that.
This position will still answer directly to you. This position answered.
So currently, in the old structure, the position answered to the public safety assistant county administrator.
Well, that was Kevin.
Yeah, right. And so
he had a dual role.
That's one of the options on the table, is that it would report directly to me.
I would think that'd be a good idea.
So
I think that's the best idea.
Well,
being this, in my opinion, the CEO of the county,
right? And so
as important as this should report directly to you.
Yeah, with emergency management, there's a gray sky, blue sky environment. In the 90% of the time when it's we're not activated, we're not dealing with a disaster. The question is a direct line to me the most efficient way to run that organization? Again, I got a meeting with Andy on Friday. We're going to talk through some of the pros and cons about what's the best way to do that. And frankly, I have not landed on what the right answer is yet from an organizational perspective. Gray sky environment, I sit in the EOC there's a direct link there in the EOC. So that doesn't change. That still happens when we're in an activation. So it's really a matter of in the blue sky, what's the most effective manner to organize from a train, equip, manage perspective. And it still may be the direct line, but again, we're just asking the questions because we have the chance to ask the questions. Now's the time to do it, and then we'll move forward. So,
okay, so let me continue that conversation a little bit. So basically, the two departments under Kevin was fire rescue and EOC.
Well, there were actually 4 departments, divisions, if you will.
What am I missing?
Fire rescue, emergency communications, 911. Emergency
the
management,
911. I guess I'm lumping them together. So
yes. So really, there's 4, and we're kind of looking at each 4 of them as a block. And so, what's the most effective way to organize so that we can deliver the most effective resources in service to the community? Mm-hmm. It may. So I don't have an answer yet. I'm just letting you know that's why you're not seeing an advertisement right now for Assistant County Administrator for Public Safety. Is we're going through that process to make sure that whichever way we go, we're organized in the most efficient manner possible to execute those things.
Mr. Chairman, and I think the direct line of communication is a very optimum way to go in a sense. So when I look at Kevin, some of the struggles he had was like, how do I get the pumps in place? How do I get it from? Who's got to go through? If he's got a direct link for you to go make those decisions and go, it's phenomenal. I think he helped. Like we ended up doing a little dredging on a unmaintained channel on Jasmine Lakes that Kevin said, Laura and I went out there too, took a look at it, and that got done. Scenic Drive, we had a couple of pine trees were kind of blocking a culvert from one side of the road to the other side of the road, restricting the water flow by 2/3. By his paying attention, knowing what was going on during the events, he could get to you, get it to go through, and get them cleaned out. So I think that direct line is something that it gets that information free flowing right to you where it needs to be. Because you did a phenomenal job doing all of it. So,
Thanks. I appreciate the feedback, and we're just making sure we ask the questions, we get good answers to the questions. Every way you organize, there are pros to it and cons to it, and so we're just making sure we understand all those before we kind of do whatever we need to do and move forward. Now is a time in the organization to be able to take a pause with that group and say, okay, what's the best way to do it? We're taking advantage of that opportunity, and we're asking questions, seeking answers, and then as we get those answers, we'll move forward. So, in whatever way will be what as we outline will be after we make all those evaluations and kind of figure out what's the best way to operate. Because I got 4 groups there, right? For each one of those, because we got 4 distinct service delivery models in those 4 groups that we need to make sure that we're organized as effectively as possible to make sure we continue to maintain and deliver outstanding service in each one of those modules or lines of business. So that's all I have, sir.
That's all? Okay. Mr. Steinstein?
I have been approached by the attorney representing the supervisor of elections that, as most of you probably know at this point, there is a special election scheduled, or is probably to be scheduled in the not too distant future for Representative Burgess's seat, given his taking of the Department of Veteran Affairs, I guess it's secretary position. So there will be a need for a county representative for canvassing board for the special election, and there are municipals in March. I spoke briefly with Commissioner Wells, who said he was willing to do the special election. I didn't have a conversation with him regarding the municipals. But unless he has a conflict, I would assume that he would continue on and do the municipals. We need an alternate to tender to the supervisor of elections in case Commissioner Wells for some reason can't make those meetings. Unfortunately, I have not seen a schedule yet to inform you what those dates are, although I was told end of February, beginning of March is likely when the canvassing board would be meeting.
Yeah, I can't. It's a conflict for me. Already endorsed.
You got a conflict?
Yeah, I'm supporting one of the candidates
Okay.
openly already.
Okay.
Helping them with their campaign, so.
And then the question
No, it's all the way
becomes,
on the other side of county. I would recommend you. The meetings are over here. I'd nominate you.
It's over here, but I could be his alternate, possibly. But
You
one of the
could.
candidates I'm gonna be.
well, no, I don't think you can be involved in the, based on our conversations, I
Yeah.
don't think you can be involved in the special
Alternate.
election.
Alternate.
Did we have a judge doing it, one of the judges?
Yes, but you're statutorily required to, if there is a commissioner who is available and does not have a conflict, you're statutorily required.
If we're running for office, if we're a candidate, can we be on that?
You're not running for,
Oh.
to my knowledge, nobody has announced they're stepping down for a municipal election.
No, I mean, if we are,
We're not talking about 2020 at this point. You're back up for reelection, or there are commissioners up for reelection. All we're talking about is, because the appointment changes, or the canvassing board changes every year, it's this special election, which is occurring February, March, and then the municipals, which will occur in March.
I have no.
Mr. Mariano?
I mean, I could be, I mean, I was gonna get involved, so I haven't yet, though. So if I need to step back and just do what I can do it.
Again, it would be an alternate role at this point, unless Commissioner Wells couldn't attend. But
Make the
no,
judge
you
know.
couldn't be, if you're supporting any of the candidates for the municipals or this special, and if we just want to parse it as the special, I can relay that, but I need to convey who our representatives are going to be.
Sounds like we need to go to the judge for a backup.
We need an alternate. So I need a motion for appointing
Mike?
Commissioner Wells as the representative for canvassing board and alternate as Commissioner Mariano.
Are you
So I need
willing to
that
do
motion.
alternate, or are you?
Well, I said, I hadn't declared, but I planned to get involved, so.
I make that motion.
Well, is Wells isn't here, he's okay, you said he's okay with
Yes,
this?
I've talked to him, he's
Okay.
okay.
So make sure.
He's okay for the special election.
Okay. I make that motion
I just
and
made
add it and ask and let them know that a judge needs to be the alternate.
Okay.
Second.
So who we got now?
I made the motion,
It's-
just a second.
It's
Wells.
Commissioner Wells as primary, and we're not fielding an alternate, that they will have to get a county court judge if they want to have an alternate.
All right, so I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so there's our selection.
That's all I
Anything else?
needed, that's all I needed today. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I want to announce the big shred. I announced it last week, but we do have the dates. January 26th at the West Pasco Judicial Center, and then February 2nd here at the Robert Sumner Judicial Center. So bring your, last year there were lines and lines of people to shred those documents that are sensitive and confidential that we can take care of for you. We appreciate your help with that sponsorship. The only other thing I have is maybe the Grand Poopa could tell the fire chief to stop stealing my teammates. Thank you.
We hire the best and brightest. And if they happen to be working for you,
That's all?
I'll talk to them.
All right, Commissioner Starkey, you have something else?
Well, I just, in hopes that we all start sharing minutes or notes from the committees that we are appointed to. At T-BARTA, I just wanted you to know, really, Commissioner Long has really done an amazing job of going through the finances of T-BARTA and working with the PSTA to help us with the financial issues they were having there at T-BARTA. And I think that they've let a lot of grant money slide, and there were some issues there. So under new management now, I think T-BARTA's very fiscally sound and doing some really good things. And we both sit on Tampa Bay Water, but you might have read that we had a interesting meeting in our last meeting, and discussion is continuing on the City of Tampa project and
TAP project.
the TAP, and I expect that we may get a resolution at our next meeting, but we have been making sure that we're looking out for our constituents' interests, and it's been a challenge,
Yes.
right?
To say the least, yes.
And a lot of different ideas going around there, and a lot of different thoughts, but I think we'll get a resolution at our next meeting.
Oh, can I ask you a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In reference to T-BARTA, I sat on it for a while, and then, when they did the reorganization of T-BARTA, Pasco County got duped on that one. And I think if you remember, when we went up to Tallahassee and we sat with then Senator Latvala, I had brought it up to him, he didn't want to hear about it. I still feel we got burned on that.
Not enough seats?
Yeah, not enough seats. We did get burned on that, and that wasn't fair. I still don't think it's fair. We need another representative on there, whether it be, I know you can go for appointments, but at the same time, I think we should have another representative from Pasco County. So I said it probably every meeting while I was there and brought that up, that I didn't think it was fair, especially for a county of our size and a growing county. And you look at a county like Hillsborough, yes, it's a bigger county, but excuse me, a large portion of it is taken up by, many cities. Look at Pinellas County. I mean, geez, if you look at the unincorporated area in Pinellas County, it's very small. So I still don't think the makeup is fair at all, and it doesn't give us proper representation. So I don't know if bring it up. I'd love to bring that up to some of our legislators in the coming weeks to see if there's a way to get us another seat on there. Whether it be a commissioner or it could be somebody from one of our cities. It's just somebody from Pasco County, because they have people on cities there through cities that are on T-BARTA.
No, I think that's a good idea. And when
You're a lone wolf,
when the governor and when the legislature came up with the new makeup, I got on the phone and started calling people.
Yeah.
Like I called Bill Weatherford to submit his name to be a governor appointee, and I don't think we had anyone from Pasco County who even put their name in.
Nobody submitted.
Yeah. So we do have that avenue if we can find
That's tough,
someone who will submit. I don't know when.
It's not permanent though. We would be nice to have a permanent additional seat on.
But I think that's a good thought, and I will bring it forward, and then I think we need to talk to our legislators
That's where we need to, what we need to do.
about adding another one.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You know, maybe we should, maybe we should craft a letter, much as we did push for it, you know, the previous time.
Yeah.
Let's go put a letter together and get it part of our legislative agenda, and then get it out to all the members.
Yeah, because that was
Okay.
Val's baby. That was his whole, it was his
Yeah.
agenda. He wasn't gonna change his mind.
Right.
Now there's nobody else that really pushed for it.
We can do that. We can put a letter together.
Nobody else has a dog in this hunt, really.
Send it out to our
legislative-wise.
representatives.
And then,
Ralph, you want to help us with that?
since we
Yeah,
have,
so I guess the question is the board authorizing the chair to sign a letter
Yes.
once we draft it?
yes.
So moved.
Okay, just
Second.
make sure I
All
was
right, I got a
clear.
motion and a
That's what I
second.
thought I heard, but
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Since
Thank
we
you.
have a little bit of time, what are we doing on the dredge report? What's happening with the dredge study?
so it's a question for me or a question for you? 'Cause
Anybody.
I would, I know right now we are working through.
Here we go.
I think
'Cause the numbers that
next
came
step is to
in-
get a little more detailed analysis, you know, actually some bathymetric work and some work out in the field. So that's the next step in the process, but I'm not sure when the money becomes available for that.
And I can't hear very well, I'm sorry, I have a cold, so both my ears are full. But I'm wondering who is talking to, whoever's doing the study, are they talking to the communities who use those channels and canals? Because the one I saw, the Gulf Harbor South Channel, you know, they did it from the very beginning to the very end, and it's my understanding it only needs to be done in just a little portion of that, and would be much less expensive. So I'm wondering who's getting the local knowledge, where are they going for local knowledge of what needs to happen?
So, and forgive me if I don't answer this directly, but the approach has been for the Public Works team, there was a study that was done in the county several years ago. We had our Public Works team, who's recently taken over this effort, to evaluate that and to look at what those costs were. That was a memo that was sent to each board member that kind of had a range of prices in there. The impetus of this was restore funding that was becoming available to perhaps do some work on this, and there was some focus areas that were put in there. And so the Public Works team has come up with a broad brush on here's the work that needs to be done. So as the county administrator points out, in some of those areas that we're looking at for restore, there needs to be, you know, I want to say it's about $100,000, I believe, that they're looking to kind of put towards doing some engineering and some study on, which would require some bathymetric surveys, right? I mean, dredging in and of itself, you're removing material, so you have to know how much material is down there. You have to also understand, is that material hazardous, or where can it be put? And then thirdly, are you doing any environmental impacts, and how do those get mitigated? So there's an engineering process and permitting process that goes through with that before you can even set a dredge out to start doing that work. So we're looking to focus on that area, but again, the funding becomes a larger piece of the puzzle into how do you affect all that? And when was the last, I couldn't tell you when the last time these channels were dredged. But that work is ongoing, Commissioner. So we would probably seek to get input on what the priorities should be, and then we can build a program around that, and then figure out, of course, how to fund it.
What I would maybe like to suggest, at least in Gulf Harbors, and I think we've already approved the one for Bailey's Bluff, is that we have a community meeting, and you all can ask the residents, kind of how we have done with the stormwater issues. Where are the problems that you know of, and see which ones rise to the
And in some areas we are looking at that. And, the boaters obviously know where the problems are, and so we're definitely applying that approach to some of the areas that we're looking at currently.
Where does that permit come from, DEP or Army Corps?
I couldn't tell you offhand, Commissioner. There's a list. Our research shows probably about 20 different agencies that could be involved, depending on the nature of the work.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to get with you to have a Gulf Harbors meeting on our channels and canals and whatever. And maybe it's a joint one with Gulf Woodlands.
Mm-hmm. If I could interject a little bit as well. So from the last meeting we had, I think it's good for each commissioner, especially Commissioner Starkey, to get briefed on it as far as what's gone on so far. from the studies that were done, it wasn't just even Gulf Harbors and Hudson, there was also several other channels that are getting looked at.
Yes.
And we're trying to get internally, I guess, to fund it to, which administrator's proposal to, he can do it within the budget he's got.
We're trying to get our arms wrapped around it. So
And
we're
if
still in that
they- And if
process.
they go look at each one of those channels, and it's several of them up and down the coast, we can then go take a look, and I think it's eventually going to be a three-prong approach to get the funding all together. I think it's going to be something where we use the Restore Act money, we use the boat fee money, and you put an MSBU in. When I look at like the situation with Gulf Harbors, it takes very little money, as you know, to go fix that channel, the things that need to be done. They've got the study work to be done already. Hudson Channel, they've already mapped it out, and those two are just maintenance dredges as well, so it's very easy to go through the whole process to get them done. Anything pre-1970, I think is just a simple DEP approval. We've got a map countywide as far as which ones it looks like aerials that we've just got that kind of show what, could be effective. But I think this is going to be something, it's going to obviously benefit the whole county, but especially along the coast for redevelopment for the West Harbors. It is an immediate need to go forward, but I think this first step going forward, if you guys coordinate and county administrator thinks you can actually get it done to get this initial work that's been done, and I think the way it would be said, they did it about on 50-foot or 100-foot increments, and if they get more intense to what they have for data already and just dive into that data, they can get to very specific numbers where instead of it being 1 million cubic yards, it's only 100,000 cubic yards. Part of the reason I wanted to cancel the Restore Act meeting from a month ago is because they didn't have the same data. They didn't go dig into it. After the meeting we had, we can go into it, but it's going to take that research. So as quick as we can get that research done, is as quick as I think we do need to have a nice public meeting. It maybe would be good at the Realtors building.
Sorry?
Maybe at the Realtors building or the County Commission building in Newport Richard to kind of bring everybody together and say, let's get all the neighborhoods together, much like we did 2.5 or 2 3/4 years ago at Sea Ranch, to kind of say, okay, here's how the neighborhoods get looked at. I found overwhelmingly, anybody who's got a boat, especially on the coast, I mean, I've heard a couple little things about the inland part, but anybody who's got a boat on the coast loves the idea of the boat fees, happy to contribute. Anybody who lives on, let's say, one of those feeder channels that needs the access to go out, they're willing to, from what I can tell, they're willing to put to an MSBU as well, just to keep it rolling. And I think with the Restore Act money, I don't think there's any better we can do to try to rejuvenate the coast as well. Because a lot of it comes to when that stormwater can flow in, flow out, is actually better for the environment too. So.
But I think we have a ways to go on the Restore because it still has to be, it has not gone through the Restore ranking process yet, right?
Well, yeah, keep in mind, on pot 1, we get complete flexibility, we can do what we want. When we did the approvals long ago, it was mentioned that dredging should be, as far as priority 1 goes on pot 1, to actually go that way. Again, putting the numbers together is what we need, and I think all 3 of those funding sources need to be done. Pot 3 is a different thing. We left any dredging monies out of pot 3, just to pot 1.
Okay,
Okay.
so a little more work to be done.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, I have a couple of items. Eric, one of them is our monitors are purple, and I don't know why. These monitors.
Yeah.
So somebody needs to look at them. They've been purple and another color, I think, while others have been correct. So something's happened
Yes, sir.
with them.
We'll look at it.
So just have somebody look at it. The other item I'd like, and I think all of us have known about this, of course, the school board and the superintendent have been talking about closing down the school in Lacoochee because of the capacity of the school is down to about 51% of the students that go in that school. Since then, the school board has voted to keep it open and not close it. And the issue is, and I got several comments from different school board members calling me about issues and how we could have business or more homes built or things of this nature and bring in, if there was anything coming in the future, bringing into the Lacoochee area that would create jobs and also require there be some housing. What concerns me is the fact that we have a rural ordinance in this northeast quarter, and if you had manufacturing come in there, where are you going to house people, or where are you going to build the type of housing you need to supply for the people that are going to actually be in those jobs. So I'm very concerned about if we had manufacturing come there, where would we house the workers in the nearby? They would have to come probably back toward Dade City or somewhere, because the rural ordinance, the workers in those manufacturing jobs could not afford 5-acre tracts and big estates. There's no way they could afford that. So it's just something I just want to bring up, and maybe I want to discuss or not discuss, but I think it's an issue and we need to be aware of it, because if we land some manufacturing up there, we got to think of somehow to provide housing in this area, so. Okay.
Chairman, was there any property in that area that was nominated under that opportunity zone? Because that's a prime area. I don't know who's,
Some of
who
the
knows?
houses.
I'd have to look at the maps. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, so if there's an opportunity zone
Yeah.
in that area, what's the very may likely be, that is the perfect place for us to really push for jobs and workforce housing.
Right. So that's something we got to look at in the future, that, and hopefully we could land some kind of manufacturing, provide jobs. Because the only way you're going to grow the population of that school is to have more housing in that area, so that students will be there.
Well, jobs come and then housing, I think, but,
Yeah.
yeah, let's look and see if there's an opportunity zone in that area.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad the school board voted the way they did on that one. I have big fears about them closing on Hudson Elementary and Midi-Pelock as well.
Right. Well, I understand that, and the fact of it is what the administration was looking at is the fact that it's hard to run a school at 50% occupancy.
It is.
It's like any other business. You want it to be closer to its max, so it pays for itself.
Yeah, and you know, when you get a school already built, and maybe you just got to look at some busing and other things, and I think they're going to go do that, so I'm glad they're diving into that bigger. As an idea, there is that railhead that's in Lakuchi. We've looked at possibly goes up there. Maybe there's something we can actually take a really close look at that railhead and get somebody going there. I mean, it used to thrive years ago. It used to be a grain place that was there, et cetera. I don't know what can go there now. I mean, maybe with the new farm bill that just went through, we've got that hemp resolution. The gentleman's just going to come today and talk to us. So if we don't feel comfortable, we can push it back a bit. But, you know, hemp is an industry that has a great potential. Wood products, rope, the CBD that's out there. I mean, I actually do the CBD from hemp just as, admittedly, it's a great pain reliever with no side effects. It could be a great potential thing up there where you can actually get your end products that are there if you don't have a manufacturing capability right there, or if you do, great. If not, you can actually ship it with a rail line that goes right up to 301 that hits the rest of the country. So, I mean, there's great potential out there, so maybe we need to ask CDC to go investigate that a little bit to find out what can be done with that railhead. It's a prime railhead that's sitting right there that could create a lot of jobs.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up, because can you talk about the resolution that is proposed here?
I'm happy to. And I do have Mr. Heinzman coming, so he's going to talk. And I told him, look, you're going to do a presentation. A doctor that's in with the cooperative. So as far as the farm bill that just passed, is everyone familiar with the farm bill that just passed? Okay. With cannabis, they put all cannabis together, whether it be marijuana with the high THC or hemp, which is a product that George Washington used to grow, Thomas Jessup used to grow. It doesn't have the THC component where you can actually smoke it and get high. You can't do it.
They used to make rope out of it.
They used to make rope out of it.
Yeah,
they can actually make, like bamboo, they can make flooring out of it. So the resolution coming forward, now that this farm bill has isolated hemp from marijuana, now it's a food. Now, if the state makes it a food product, which we have to go through, and they eliminate, let's say, the growing part of it, which with medical marijuana, they have to grow it inside, okay, because of the contamination that hemp could do and others could do to it. So they got to control that to be that medical product. With hemp, they can actually grow it outside. So all this open farmland we have, you can actually grow the hemp. In Florida, especially in our area, we can actually get 3 crops a year out of it. And that could be a huge boon for us to go stimulate agricultural, stimulate maybe some manufacturing going right into the natural byproduct to the end of it. That could be real good for us. think the more people that use the CBD oils as opposed to these oxycodons, et cetera, and other medical, if you get relief from it, it'd be better. It's not gonna be for everybody, but I've just seen the benefits to it. But I think agriculturally, it should help tremendously. And I think potential's gonna be great for it. After hearing about what was going on, and I actually got excited about the hemp board before the Farm Bill got passed, seeing that it got passed, this puts Florida into great potential. So I think when Mr. Heinzman comes forward today, let's let the resolution get read. Let's have a discussion about it. He'll be the expert. He can talk to you even more, much more intelligently than I could about it as far as like the in-depth. But then we can listen to it, and if we want to vote on it or continue it, so be it. But what he'll have to say, I think, will help us quite a bit.
Yeah, I've actually stated, and my thoughts of it is, it can be read. Let's read it, but I may want to hope that it could be continued so I can know more about that bill. Because I don't think I know enough to sign it today. So it concerns me, and I'd like to know more about it, that crop.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I've got a copy of the handout that he gave to the state legislature, because they've hit to a few legislative area delegation meetings. So when we end the meeting, I'll get the copies for everybody. I thought I handed out before, but I'll get it to everybody so you can read through it a little bit. And when he comes in here, we can talk it through. And I want everyone to be comfortable with it, if we do vote on it to go forward. So
I want
you to get that comfort level. No problem.
I agree. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Nothing else? Mr. Biles? We're good?
I'm good. Give a tourism report? What's going on?
Okay.
I'm asking for a tourism report.
Well, we haven't had a meeting, we have a meeting next Wednesday.
So, have we gone vertical on the Wiregrass
I
Sports
just scheduled
Complex yet?
a meeting.
Does anyone know? Are we vertical yet?
We got an answer coming.
Andrew Baxter, Facilities Management Director. We plan to break ground on the 15th. We have one final hurdle to clear with a swift mud permit, and once we receive that, then we'll be able to rock and roll. So we're expecting to break ground on the 15th.
Okay.
Moving dirt.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman?
What about the hotel?
Commissioner Maryland?
It's the same groundwork. I mean,
So it'll be same permit?
we're building the pad-ready site for the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
As we talk about tourism, I'll bring up an idea that came up a few months ago. I think there's a Tampa Bay water ski team that actually performed at SunWest out at the big lake as well as a smaller lake. I think they wanted to come before the board.
Is that the group that lost their place?
Yeah, they're losing their place, and now they're
Yeah, I heard
picking,
that.
there's a place in Tampa they're looking at as well as here. They're actually meeting this morning.
Who's looking?
The Tampa Bay water ski team.
Okay.
They bring people from all over the place that come in. Some of these people used to ski over at Cypress Gardens when that was a big event, drew a lot of people in. So they think that SunWest could work for them as well. They want to explore it. I think it's a great amenity to add to the park, especially being along the northern beach. We just put the sidewalk in, so it's easy for people to get up and go to it. So I'd like to see them come before the board to present. So I don't know if they're on the agenda yet or.
Oh, there's no cost to us, so they're just,
No,
they're just doing the boats around.
Yeah, you just kind of help with infrastructure a little bit and whatever.
Pardon me,
They'll
what's
come in
that?
and be an amenity.
Wait, what's that?
Well, they may need electricity to get there.
Electricity for what?
Well, if they're gonna have someone talking to them, to the people.
Well,
that are
there's
there.
electricity up.
Yeah, we've got only just, it'll be minor things, but I'd like them to just make sure they come before you to talk to you about it and then,
Yeah,
feel what they want to do. I think there's
When
potential
they
there.
do a presentation, have them reach out to Adam's team and.
Okay, I'll have them
They
reach out,
already have it,
I'll have them reach out again.
Okay.
Let you know.
Mine, parks too, because I mean, Parks is maintaining that project.
Oh, that is.
As a parks
Well, that's true.
facility
That's
now.
not even, yeah, in reality, that's really parks.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
they need to reach out to Keith. and make
I'll
sure that-
have them reach out to
Okay.
Keith and Kathy as well, and I'll have them try to get you in the meeting as well.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
Okay. Is that everything? All right, we'll adjourn till 1:30 for public hearing.
Photo.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call back to order the the meeting of the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners meeting of January 8th, 2019. I would like to remind everyone at this time to please silence all electronic devices. This is time for resolutions, and Madam Clerk, would you read resolution number 1?
I will. Is there anyone here representing the Human Trafficking Prevention Month? If you could come forward to the podium, please. Thank you. Resolution number 1967. Whereas the United States was founded on basic notions of human rights, that all people are born with an inalienable right to freedom, liberty, and self-determination. And whereas human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which traffickers target vulnerable populations, including men, women, children, citizens, and non-citizens, forcing them into servitude and/or the sex trade. And whereas traffickers typically use multiple means to control their victims, including beatings, rape, isolation, drug and/or alcohol dependency, document withholding, and psychological and emotional abuse. And whereas nationally, the criminal enterprise of human trafficking is second only to the illegal drug trade in terms of speed of its growth and being among the most lucrative international crimes. And whereas human trafficking has been reported in all 50 states, and reported cases of trafficking increase each year, with 8,524 cases reported and 26,557 calls made to the National Human Trafficking Hotline in 2017. And whereas the state of Florida has been identified as a hub for human trafficking activity, notably listed as one of the states with the highest incidences of human trafficking in the country, and consistently ranked third in the number of calls made to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Whereas through the Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking, our local community is united to combat this modern-day slavery and bring together nonprofits, government, and private sector businesses in prevention, prosecution, education, awareness efforts, and to restore freedom and dignity to survivors. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares the month of January as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and January 11th, 2019 as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. The board encourages all citizens to recognize the importance of prevention, education, and awareness of human trafficking, done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 8th day of January 2019, signed by the board.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Welcome.
Good
Anna,
afternoon.
would you like to state your name and position, and both of you can do that, so.
Sure. My name's Leona Dean. I'm chair of the Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Killian, co-chair.
Okay.
Just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us today. January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness Month, and we greatly appreciate the light that you have shown on this problem. It is happening here locally, and we are extremely grateful that we have your support in our education, awareness, and advocacy initiatives here in Pasco.
Yep. I actually serve on the Human Trafficking Commission with them and represent the board there, and they've done a fantastic job in this commission, and I certainly appreciate everything you do, Leanna. So it's very great. Would y'all join me down for pictures?
Thank you.
Bless you.
For RS2?
RS2.
Is there anyone here representing Arbor Day?
No trees for us?
Not this week.
Resolution number 1969, whereas Arbor Day is a celebration of trees in which individuals and groups are encouraged to plant trees in their communities. Florida has celebrated Arbor Day on the third Friday in January since 1886. And whereas trees are important in that they remove CO2 and pollutants, therefore reducing the heat island effect, they also preserve soil by slowing and decreasing stormwater runoff and provide shade and shelter for many animals. And whereas the steps we can take to protect and preserve our natural environment through education, partnerships, and positive actions should be encouraged in Pasco County. And whereas the citizens, staff, and elected officials of Pasco County are committed not only to the protection and the preservation of our trees, but also planting additional ones. And whereas it is the mission of Keep Pasco Beautiful to improve Pasco County by engaging the community in sustainable efforts to reduce litter, promote waste reduction, and encourage beautification. And whereas Pasco County Cooperative Extension is an off-campus branch of the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences and serves as a bridge between the research labs of the university and the local community by providing educational materials and programs for adults and youth. And whereas there will be an Arbor Day celebration on January 18th from 10 to 12 at the Stallings Building, one-stop shop located in Dade City. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares January 18th, 2019 as Arbor Day, and Pasco County encourages all Pasco County citizens to join in efforts to plant and preserve trees in all of their diversity. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 8th day of January 2019, signed by the board.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good morning. I'm Lottie Kelly. I'm with Covanta. I'm also the president of Keep Pasco Beautiful.
Okay.
I'm Alicia Hacker. I'm with Pasco County Environmental Compliance. I'm the treasurer with Keep Pasco Beautiful.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Urcola, and I'm with Cooperative Extension One Stop Shop, and I'm the program coordinator.
Thank you. I'm Dorothy Moore. I am president of the Pasco County Master Gardeners.
And I'm Kristen King. I'm the Keep Pasco Beautiful coordinator. We just wanted to say thank you so much to you all for recognizing the importance of trees and embracing it with us. This year we're thrilled to partner with the Extension Office and the Master Gardeners. So next Friday we will be giving, not this week, next week, we will be giving away our seedlings in Dade City. We're also going to be planting a couple of fruit trees in their community gardens. And we look forward to all of you coming out if possible. Thank you so much.
It's yours. Oh, it's mine. Okay. Pass it around. Would y'all join me for pictures down below?
Yours is on its way, correct?
All your gardens, okay. Those off, and then I can grow something. I've got a, move in here, guys. Oh, sure. Back here.
What kind of trees are you
Good work.
Growing just barely.
By title only. RS3.
Yeah, Res 3 is by title only.
Resolution number 1968. Well, I guess I should ask, is there anyone here in honor of the Honor Flight at Home mission? Okay, so by title only, resolution number 1968, a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, recognizing January 12th, 2019 as Honor Flight at Home mission number 12 day. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 8th day of January 2019, signed by the board.
Move for approval.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Res 4.
Is Mr. Sigmund here?
Do title only, please.
Okay, thank you. Resolution number 1970, a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, commending Robert J. Sigmund for over 31 years of dedication to Pasco County and congratulating him on his retirement. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 8th day of January 2019, signed by the board.
Move approval?
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Res 5.
Some folks are here.
So RS5, I think, has a presentation with it.
Would the Heismans and everyone come up to the podium for the resolution? We're going to read this resolution, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Resolution number 1972, whereas the Florida Sustainable Agricultural Cooperative is a West Pasco County-based organization focused on supporting farmers, Pasco County, and the state of Florida through sustainable crops such as canaf, industrial hemp, bamboo, and other beneficial crops. And whereas these crops will be processed into products creating jobs, supporting bioremediation, and helping the fight against opioid addiction. Pasco will lead the development and industry infrastructure that will build an economic engine to support Pasco County, Florida. And whereas the passage and President Trump's approval into law of the 2018 Farm Bill on December 20th, 2018, will accelerate the rate of sustainable agricultural development, U.S. governmental agencies are preparing to implement the new hemp guidelines. The states will be given the responsibility to enact governing legislation in each state. The Florida Sustainable Agricultural Cooperative will be engaged in activities to create the industry, infrastructure, and to grow the membership of the cooperative in Florida. And whereas the cooperative presented the Florida Hemp Bill to the Pasco County Legislative Delegation on December 17, 2018, asking for its support to pass the bill. And whereas the cooperative has planned several projects in Pasco County to work with farmers to plant canaf, I don't know how to pronounce it, okay, and industrial hemp for bioremediation, fiber processing, warehousing, and distribution. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby supports the passage of the Florida Hemp Bill and encourages the Pasco County Legislative Delegation to sponsor and support the bill as presented by the Florida Sustainable Agricultural Cooperative.
Okay. And at this time, I think, Mr. Chairman, probably a good time for Q&A, so we can talk about the subject. Maybe Joe and company can actually talk a little bit about hemp and what this is really doing and what the U.S. Farm Bill has just actually made available for us for opportunity.
Hi, my name is Joseph Heinzman. I'm here as a representative of the Florida Sustainable Agriculture Co-op. I'm here to answer any concerns or questions you may have in regards to any parts of the bill that you've seen, sort of like how we're choosing to push forth for bioremediation, economic development in ways that you can use these agricultural crops, pushing forth to legalize it so farmers here in Pasco and Florida can start growing hemp without worry of it being considered marijuana. I'm not really sure what your questions may be, so I'm here to answer as many as I can.
I need to know more about the bill, and I've questioned that, but I think I need more time than today to be voting on that position on that bill. So I'd like to be continued and get more information before we do. So, and I'd like to talk to my staff also about it.
I understand.
Okay.
With pushing forth with hemp, because they did go ahead and pass it at the federal level, several of Florida's laws are going to have to change over the next 6 months to a year. And as it stands right now, medical marijuana dispensaries are the only companies that can grow hemp in Florida. and that's causing, for lack of a better word at the moment, a monopoly in what could be a much better system to help Florida start handling and tackling a lot of the issues that it has at this time.
Okay.
If you could, would you elaborate to the difference between hemp and cannabis and what this bill actually, how it separated them out and how the state is now set up where the states can't control the transportation and distribution, only the growing part, and where the growing part with medical marijuana has to be controlled. And as far as when you're growing hemp, it can be grown outside, which actually provides local farmers a lot more opportunity to grow the product and do something with it.
So here in Florida, as the laws stand, you can only grow medical marijuana or cannabis plants indoors because they have it so that the medical marijuana treatment centers have full control of cannabis as it stands. You can't grow hemp outdoors. The farmers can't grow hemp. You can't use it for fiber and everything else. They're only thinking about it for cannabinoids. They're not thinking about it for food, for economic development, for ways to clean up Lake Okeechobee. They're just thinking about what it can do to their cannabinoid market and the medical marijuana market. And while it can be helpful, we want to have as many farmers be able to grow this crop because it's very beneficial to Florida. IFAS has done studies since the 60s on canaf and hemp, and they have shown that it is a viable agricultural crop for the state of Florida, and it is not actually invasive as has been feared.
Is there a law in the state now allowing that or not?
So right now, you can't grow hemp unless you're a medical marijuana treatment center. We are looking to clearly define the difference at the genetic level of hemp and marijuana so that farmers can move forward and start growing hemp in mass for the most economic development, to be able to create more food, fiber, even single-use biodegradable plastics.
And there is a big difference between a marijuana plant and a hemp plant.
Yes, in fact, in our bill, the way we addressed it was because in several of the studies that we've gone through from the state of Mississippi, from all the other colleges that have done actual marijuana studies in the U.S., they found that the genetic difference of the two plants is based off of the ratio of THC to CBD, and therefore the ratio of what is psychoactive and what is not. We've chosen to go with that definition because what they found is at that ratio, hemp is not psychoactive, it's more of a food, it works consistently as a food, and it works as a fiber, but it does not get anybody high.
And to help a little bit too, Mr. Chairman, when you look dealing with medical marijuana, the THC, I mean, this board was very stringent on where they wanted the location to be, what issues were in place. Where is the THC cannabinoid balance that's in that you can't get high off it? It's a lot different. Because, we struggled with where to locate the facilities for medical marijuana because it's still illegal federally. So we struggled, how do you do with the banking? Banking's still an issue. With hemp, especially considered a food at this point, by going forward and having the state open it up, you can actually get these crops now insured. And you can talk to some local farmers about the value to that. Being insured a crop is all of a sudden, it's an economic engine like we've never seen before that can go on. And I will tell you, when you consider, call it a monopoly, as far as who's given the rights to go medical marijuana, treat it, sell it, et cetera, think about the cost involved to that compared to if you got local farmers like growing local produce and then can market it themselves. They could develop it themselves or sell the product off as they go. It provides a much bigger opportunity, and if we can drive that cost down for people to get this medicine, I call it medicine, I guess you can't call it that, but I know how it works for me as far as the CBDs go. But if we can do that, we can actually make it a lot easier for people to get. And I will tell you, I've got seniors taking medical marijuana right now that love it, the effect of it. I think this here would just even make it more affordable if they're coming out of pocket.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
quick question.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying currently the state of Florida categorizes hemp in the same category as medical marijuana, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Specifically, they define it with low THC marijuana, and they did that when they started the medical marijuana program just to make sure the MMTCs could do their job. Now that hemp has been moved forward as a food product and pushed forward federally, we're able to go ahead and start making our own laws towards that instead of just relying on the research programs back from 2014 that were started.
Right.
So Florida, if we decide to take the initiative, we can start growing hemp this year instead of, as it stands right now, waiting 5 years for the IFAS as the research program that they're putting forth in IFAS right now.
And I appreciate that. So I guess I'm trying to figure out where the confusion is on the state side, because you can go to a number of, obviously, retail stores now and buy clothing and things made out of hemp fiber. I mean, there are stores all over the place.
Oh, yes.
I mean, in common stores, actually.
The biggest
Retail establishments, major chains have hemp clothing made out of hemp and other type of material, purses, whatever, handbags, whatever it may be, made out of hemp fiber. So so we're saying is they can sell the fiber, but you can't grow the fiber.
Exactly. All of that is exported in from either other states or imported in, from other states or usually from outside of the country, such as from Canada and several other countries that import hemp in mass. We cannot grow it here in Florida at this moment, and there are a lot of farmers that could use it.
But you can sell the product.
You can sell the products, you can make them, but
Yeah,
they won't let you grow
our
hemp
farmers
yet.
are looking for.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
For-
That's what I mean. I don't understand
Crops.
the confusion
Florida
on the
hasn't
state side.
exported
Yeah.
hemp in 80 years.
Pardon me, sir?
Florida hasn't exported hemp in 80 years, and with what we have for exporting, it'd be very beneficial because we can also grow for the majority of the year.
Yeah, so that was my question. I don't understand where the confusion lies. Then I guess on the state side, when they allow you to import the products, the fiber products, and the CBD oil, which you can buy at any nature store or I don't want to give a plug for any stores, but a lot of your natural food stores, you can buy the oils there. You see it advertised all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I was just reading in I just looked it up, and hemp is also used for bird seed.
So
And
it used to be
bedding
an
for
animal
animals.
So it's in the bird seed you buy currently.
It used to be animal feed until we outlawed it back in the early 20s and 30s.
It's used in manufacture of oil-based paints and creams for moisturizing agents, cooking, and plastics. So, I think, maybe, I don't doubt that this is going to get fixed up at the legislature. What were you asking of us?
Well, if we approve the resolution, we just push making a step forward that we want the state to go look at it. And again, back to the 20s, when they actually took all of marijuana and made it all, all cannabis and looped it all together, that's where it's been trapped all these years. With all the other states making it illegal for recreational, medical, et cetera, it still made it illegal federally. So you couldn't do anything with it as far as using the bank, using the cash crops, et cetera. This has changed everything because of this farm bill that just went through. It's now going to allow the local people to actually grow it and do something with it, as opposed to just large corporations doing it. This is like a monumental step forward. The state's done nothing wrong with what they've done. I mean, they've put medical marijuana, that's what's been approved. But this here is a game changer because now it takes a non-psychoactive product. It's just a regular food that can be done, grown, and create a large crop. And whether it be for, CBD used for, people's pain, or the rope, or
building materials,
or plastics,
Right.
hempcrete,
My
the
family had a hemp
opportunities
plantation in the
for now taking our
Oh, yeah.
land use that, farmers that struggle losing their orange groves, this is just creates a huge market. And for Florida itself, I hope they see it. I know a couple of legislators are really on top of this,
I
so
saw
I
that in the
expect us
paper.
to go. But by making this legal for the whole state and bringing it forward, it puts the state in a great position. There's one other thing that actually could work on it. It actually is good for taking certain nutrients out of the ground. So all this thing we hear about Lake Okeechobee, they've actually talked about floating hydroponics around it in the lake to go suck all those nitrates out to actually improve the water. With all the stuff that is planted all around Lake Okeechobee as well, it could help with that as well. So it's just taking a step forward for the state to go forward, so now we can actually use this product that right now, they just control right now the growth.
It's legal federally.
And it's legal federally now, which changes
I'm
everything.
okay with it now.
And all we're doing is getting the state to go, let everybody grow it. That's all that's happening.
To
I
lead
think
off of,
if our state waits a long time, puts our state at a disadvantage.
it really would. Florida is actually one of the only states that has 3 to 4 growing cycles for this plant. Not only that, onto the bioremediation, they've been going to Chernobyl for about the last decade planting hemp and canaf there, and it's been pulling the radiation out of the air and soil.
What is canaf?
It is a cannabis hibiscus plant. It's a different form of cannabis that's been legal throughout the U.S. always. There's no cannabinoids are in it. It's not as good as a fiber, but it is still good, and it's used for food and animal bedding as well.
I mean, if the board's not comfortable with it, I don't mind continuing it 2 weeks, but I can tell you, they could have even more data you can go look at, but I want you to know I'm firmly 100% behind this. I've studied it real close, and I think it's gonna be great for our farmers.
Well, I'm not real comfortable with it this time. I'm not saying I won't get that way, but I'd like to continue it to know more about it. And I kind of feel funny or strange that our county would be out in front of the state, because it seems like the state's got to act on this before it actually comes to be.
If the farm, sorry.
But that's my problem with it right now, but I'd sure like to open for a lot more information, so.
And Mr. Chairman, the reason we're in front of the state is not meeting yet. I mean, they're just doing the committee weeks for the first time. They're gonna take it up, they are gonna be looking at it. I just think it's good for us to show the support.
Are they looking at it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely, this farm bill just passed.
What I'd
so it's
like
just
to do
changed
is
everything.
reach out to my representatives at the state and find out where they stand with that, and
So the state is slowly moving forward on hemp. Some of the medical marijuana treatment centers have even gone ahead and converted their indoor grows, because they can only do indoor. But they've gone ahead and tried to convert one of their indoor grows for testing as well. IFAS right now has a 5-year roadblock for any hemp to be grown in the state, because they want to do 5 years of research.
Right.
But they already actually have that research. They did it 30, 40 years ago.
Okay.
And as it stands right now, the only thing that this is stopping is farmers being able to begin just planting the plant and moving forward here in the state of Florida.
Okay. Commissioner Wells.
And we're talking, I already signed it. I was in Georgia a couple weeks ago, and they've got hemp farms there, and, I know the freeze kills it, but I talked to a guy up there a little bit about it. We need it. I know Kentucky, I think, I've got somebody that owns a bunch of farms out there, and it's coming. We just need to, I don't see an issue with supporting it, but I do agree with the chairman. It's probably not a bad idea for us to talk to our legislative folks. But I think we need to lead this, and it would be a cool thing for the east side of the county, for these farmers that can't have citrus anymore, to have something that they can harvest. So.
And I agree with that. I mean, the farmers have been through a lot in this area, especially with citrus, not being able to produce a crop that give them income. And if that's a crop they can, I'd like to look into it and then move forward if that's the case. And if everything's like what y'all are saying, I believe I'll get that answer, and we'll move forward very shortly.
All right. I think you'll find a lot of farmers waiting with a lot of comments.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you would, by the way, send all the information that you had in that email.
Yeah.
Forward it all, if you don't mind, forward it all so that all the county commissioners get it. We'll take the 2 weeks' time and go look at it, and I'll move to continue.
Okay, that'll work.
All right.
So do I have to have a second on that continues? I need a second. I got a motion and a second to continue, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out.
And just for the record, I didn't read the last part, done and resolved, because it was not done and resolved. Just want that for the record. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'll move on to public hearing, P1. And do we have...
We do have proof of publication for P1, Tampa Bay Times, October 5th, 2018. No sign?
Okay, fantastic. Good afternoon, Amy Heiler, Planning and Development. Item P1 is a large-scale, or the adoption hearing for a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in the name of CPAL 1812, the reserve at Hunter's Ridge. I will now read the ordinance into record. An ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, Map 2-15 and Sheet 18, changing from PSP, Major Public Semi-Public, to PD Plan Development on 29.18 acres, more or less, of real property located approximately 1,100 feet south of Rancho Del Rio Drive on the east side of Little Road, providing for severability and an effective date. The subject site is located approximately 1,100 feet south of Rancho Del Rio Drive on the east side of Little Road, located in the West Market area. The site is currently county-owned and previously operated as the Deer Park Wastewater Treatment Plant. On January 10, 2017, the BCC declared this property as surplus and determined the applicant was the most qualified bidder. On June 5, 2018, the BCC executed the agreement for the sale and purchase of the property as well as a county deed. The following illustration depicts the site plan for the wastewater treatment plant. The pump station, T-Mobile cell tower, and the Little Road dedication will remain county-owned and retain the existing PSP future land use. The applicant is proposing a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from PSP to PD to allow for a 130-bed assisted living facility, ALF, and 170 senior apartments with a maximum density of 24 dwelling units per gross acre. The inset here shows the existing future land use of PSP and the proposed future land use of PD. Surrounding area is characterized by apartment and condominium uses. The intent of PD is to encourage mixed-use developments, residential developments, with a range of unit types and densities and attendant on-site facilities. The proposed senior apartments and ALF are compatible with the surrounding characteristics of the area and the proposed sub-area policy of a maximum density of 24 dwelling units per gross developable acreage. The emergency management requirement must comply with ordinance number 18-28 adopted July 10, 2018, establishing the requirement for assisted living facilities to be equipped with generators and an emergency plan reviewed prior to the certificate of occupancy, and there is no transportation need assessment. It was exempt from this amendment. And with that, on October 25th, 2018, the LPA held a public hearing and approved to the Board of County Commissioners. November 27th, the Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing and approved to the Department of Economic Opportunity. On December 12th, the DEO received transmittal package and completed the expedited review as of December 21st with no comments. So with that being said, this amendment comes to you with a recommendation of approval and adoption by roll call vote. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have, and Barbara Wilhite is also on this.
Any questions?
No, this is a great project. There's ALF all around it that this applicant, has developed.
Okay.
It's great. It's definitely needed for right there. Yeah. Not to mention we're getting rid of one of our parcels.
Okay. I have no one signed up for public comment on this item, so.
I just wanted to say thank you to a few people. I'm happy to see this come forward today. Your county administrator was involved, Mr. Carbala, the utilities department, it's their property, Amy Heiler. It's been a collaborative effort to take a piece of surplus property and put a use on it that will have no homestead exemption. So that's great for all of us. And so with that, we support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in public comment on this item? If not, entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in.
It's a roll call?
Roll call vote, excuse me.
Sorry, I closed the list. District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passed. P2.
We do have proof.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Times, December 14th, 2018, December 21st, 2018, and January 4th, 2018.
Good afternoon.
And, I'm sorry, and December 28th, 2018. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeffrey Jenkins with Planning and Development. Item P2 is an ordinance expanding the boundaries of the Epperson Ranch 2 Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida Statute and amending Pasco County Ordinance Number 18-01, providing for miscellaneous provisions, providing for an effective date. The Epperson Ranch 2 CDD, through its Board of Supervisors, has filed a petition to expand the boundaries by adding 2 parcels and contracting 1 parcel from the CDD. The CDD is located within a portion of Epperson Ranch 2 Connected City Master Plan Unit Development. With the amendment, the CDD will be approximately 344.39 acres, and the CDD will contain approximately 1,000 single-family residential dwelling units to be assessed. The CDD is located south of Elam Road, north of Overpass Road, and along both sides of Curly Road. And the recommendation is for the adoption of the ordinance. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Nope. I have no one signed up for public comment on this item. Is anyone here that has not signed up that would like to speak to this item? Come forward. And if you would, when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address.
My name is Tim Dolan. I reside at 31452 Tyndall Road.
Okay.
My question, and I don't know how well linked the approval of the CCD is to the homes, the 1,000 homes that may be developed there, but this is kind of an ongoing concern for the residents in the area around the traffic on Curly Road. I tried to research as best I could on the county website to find out what the current plans for expansion of Curly were and what the timetable is, but I don't know if any of you travel Curly, but the traffic has picked up greatly since the opening of the Epperson Lagoon property, and the left-hand turn at rush hour backs up well onto 54 coming onto Curly, and it's beginning to, in spite of the widening of that left-hand turn lane, the increase in traffic has just really been a problem there. We're starting to see a lot more people who are in a huge hurry on Curly. They're passing people doing about 70. Hadn't seen that prior to a couple of years ago. And anyway, I just think unless something's done with the widening in the near future, maybe some of this development should be reconsidered. Do any of you know what the status of the widening of Curly is?
Mr. Chairman, this has nothing to do with that. This is just an amendment to CDD ordinance. So this has nothing to do with any new development or any building any new houses in there. So that would have to be taken up during normal public comment, not during this public hearing.
Who could answer his question?
Margaret's not here. We can get you an answer.
Okay. We got your name. We'll get in contact with you and answer your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
And I think,
thank you for coming.
Sure, it's just a larger consideration of,
yes, sir.
You know, of looking at the road there and you know, having all this ongoing development without considering these feeder roads.
And I can tell you, there's plans to improve that road without any question about it. It's got to be.
Yes.
So, and that's part of our plan, but we'll get somebody in contact with you and let you know that information.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? State your name and address, please.
Yes, John Veriker with District Council, 1510 West Cleveland Street, Tampa, Florida, and we do have a representative of the developer if any of the commissioners have any questions about the request.
Any other questions?
They're the applicant.
Okay, right, yeah. Okay, I think we're good.
Move approval?
Second.
It's your district, so
I'm
making a motion for you.
Oh, that's good. I've got a motion and a second. All those to approve?
Roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll move on to P3, and this is consent.
So we do have, if you want me to go through all the consent, proof of publication. So we have P3, Tampa Bay Times, October 12th, 2018, along with affidavit of certified mailings and site postings. P4, Tampa Bay Times, November 30th, 2018. P5 and P6 were also advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, November 30th, 2018. P7 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, November 17th, 2018. P8 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, November 30th, 2018. And you do have an addendum on consent, Tampa Bay Times, that would be P1, Tampa Bay Times, November 16th, 2018.
Okay.
Those are your consent.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the procedures? And then the clerk will need to be doing some swearing in.
Yes, sir.
There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there's no opposition, the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or Planning Commission recommendation or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition to an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code. Madam Clerk.
Is anyone planning to speak this afternoon?
I have no one signed up on sheet to speak to any of these items.
Well, this would be
This is
for the
one.
rest of the afternoon. So
Okay.
anybody who
Okay.
wishes to speak to any rezoning or
If
conditional
you could
use,
stand and
please.
raise your right hand.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, take your time. Thank you. Okay, do you swear or affirm that your testimony is the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Item P3 is the Reserve at Hunters Ridge Phase 2 MPUD. It's PDD 197350. This is a rezoning request from AC to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow up to 170 senior apartments and 130 bed assisted living facilities on approximately 29.18 acres. This particular item is the companion item to your P1, the comprehensive plan amendment. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from both the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
That's on.
Do you want to see if there's anyone in the?
Yeah.
So what?
You want to see if anyone wants to oppose?
Is anybody here to speak to that item? This item?
Seeing no one, keep it on consent?
Moved on consent.
Okay. Item P4, PDD 197372, in the name of Gary L. Blackwell Investments, Inc. It's a change in zoning from an AR, agricultural residential, and an RMH, mobile home district, to an MF1, multiple family medium density district. And this comes to you with a recommendation of approval from both the Planning Commission and the Planning and Development Department.
Is anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, move to consent.
Item P5 is PDD 19-CU13. It's a conditional use in the name of BBL Tampa Hotel Group, LLC, Spring Hill Suites, North Tampa at Land O'Lakes. It's for the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and liquor on-premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a hotel with outside sale and service of alcoholic beverages on a pool deck in a master plan unit development district. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from both the Planning Commission and the Planning and Development Department.
Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, move to consent. P6.
Item P6 is PDD 19CU14. It's conditional use, Shops at Ballantrae LLC. It's for the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer and wine only, on-premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a multi-tenant retail building with restaurants in a master plan unit development district. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from both the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission, and I believe that there was a update to the Exhibit A that the clerk has been given on this item.
Okay. Anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, move to consent.
Okay. Item P7, PDD 190195. It's an amendment to a development of regional impact for Mitchell Ranch Plaza, Development of Regional Impact, HB Rubicon LLC. It's a resolution amending, consolidating, and restating the development order for the Mitchell Ranch Plaza DRI number 243, amending the land use equivalency matrix, revising notes in the land use table, and revising map H to allow assisted living facility as an alternate use to hotel. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
Okay, is anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, move to consent.
Item P8, is PDD 190405, and this is a request for a transmittal to the Department of Economic Opportunity on a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 18010, for Cypress Creek Town Center. It's a transmittal of proposed large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use maps 215 and sheet 21, changing from retail office residential to PD plan development on approximately 427.1 acres of real property located generally along State Road 56 and the intersection of realigned State Road 54, adjacent to and west of I-75 and north of Hillsborough County line. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval from Planning and Development Department and from the local planning agency.
Is anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, we'll move to, you have an addendum?
Yes.
For consent, okay.
The addendum is it's PDD 190479. It's a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 1817 for Vincent Academy. This is a transmittal to the Department of Economic Opportunity of a proposed large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from IL Industrial Light to PSP Public Semi-Public on 52.8 acres of property, and we are requesting that you authorize a transmittal to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies.
Is anyone here to speak against this addendum? Seeing no one, that finishes the consent items.
Yes.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
We'll go from there to P9.
P9, you do have proof of publication, Tampa Bay Times, November 2nd, 2018.
Good afternoon, Amy Heiler, Planning and Development. Before I get started, we did have some minor revisions to the conditions for this. The clerk has already been provided, so I did want to give you a copy just in case for the record for your review.
Do we have to move to receive from our own staff?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Not if the clerk already has the document she's passing out.
We have it, but it's not what was distributed, so you do need to review some revision. Do you want to pass them out? I don't think so.
Okay, so item P9 is a conditional use, PDD 19-CU03, a conditional use in the name of Carol A. Roth to allow for the operation of a powered paraglide launch and landing field within an AC agricultural district. The subject site is located in central Pasco County at the southeast corner of McKendree Road and Tyndale Road. The subject site contains a single-family dwelling on approximately 19.58 acres. The applicant is requesting a conditional use in order to launch and land an ultralight vehicle, a motorized parachute device known as a paraglide, on the portion of the subject property. The applicant does not propose any runways or hangars. Access to the site is from McKendree Road, a 2-lane road, 50-foot wide county-maintained roadway. The illustration here depicts the existing zoning district, AC Agricultural. And this illustration depicts the existing future land use of AG Agriculture. The subject site is located within the business core zone of Connected City, which is characterized by high-density mixed uses, including multi-story residential and non-residential uses. There is a condition that we already imposed that will address this for future development. With that being said, the CU request comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from PDD, Planning and Development, as well as the Planning Commission of 4 yeas and 1 nay. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have. What has been provided to you, Exhibit B is updated to also include the launching and landing path that they propose. And the very first condition is going to address the 4 flights. That was a recommendation from the Planning Commission. There will only be 4 flights, 4 launchings, and 4 landings. If you did not launch from the site, you will not land from the site. And then it will also address the time constraints from dawn to dusk. We are changing the PC Planning Commission recommendation from dawn to dusk to 7 a.m. to dusk. As well as, there was another one. We got the flight paths. Oh, the 400 feet. We are adding a minimum of 400 feet over adjacent property except during launch and landings and necessary circling of the area. And we can actually, there is a site plan I can show you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
First, I think the commission district is wrong in that.
It has it in my district.
It's my district.
Yeah, it should, well, it says on this, Commission District 3, so it should be 1.
It's actually
Oh,
1,
apologies.
yes.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Sorry.
I'm just curious, why does this have to come in front of the board? Why can't they just do this on their own? I see these things flying all over where I live.
Because there's opposition.
Because what?
Opposition. So we have somebody here that would like to speak in opposition to
Oh,
this.
I'm just curious.
No, I think the commissioner's question is, why is it a conditional use?
Yeah.
Because the powered paraglide itself, since there is, it was an opposition, there was also a code violation that was in there that I did find.
Perhaps Denise
So-
will answer the question for you.
Right.
I mean, literally, I see these all over Pasco County all the time. They're right by where I live. I have no issue with them, but I don't know why. What does that have to do with us?
Yeah, Denise Hernandez. So the use is not considered to be customary and incidental use to a piece of property that is zoned agricultural.
Really?
You can fly drones anywhere you want to.
I
Can't
think
you fly this wherever you want?
I think we're working on we will be working in the future on a drone ordinance as well.
I don't know,
So we don't have that ordinance in place now?
I think it's,
A drone ordinance?
I just think it's
No.
wasting these people's time to have to come and do this. It's my opinion.
Well, the problem and some of the reason they're coming, and there was some violation, but it affects the people next door.
It just so happens we have
And
opposition on this one. but
Fringes on their
It's not
rights.
customary and incidental.
But you only have opposition, when you're actually applying for a permit for a conditional use or something. So my question was what Mr. Steinser said, why does this have to come in front of this for any type of conditional use?
Mr. Chairman, if the board wishes to make this a permitted use in agriculture, they can. It isn't currently. That's why it's before you today.
So, okay,
so it's not a conditional use.
So all over Pasco County, the tons that I see especially on a Saturday or Sunday flying all over the place, they're all illegal, is what we're saying.
The flying isn't illegal. It's the landing and taking off on a piece of property. I don't know where those you're seeing are landing and taking off from. I mean.
Well, there's a lot, but I'm not gonna get them in trouble, so.
I see them as well.
Yeah, but, so you're saying, so right now, again, we can't regulate it, people are in the air with them, so they can come from Hillsborough County and fly all over Pasco County.
Right. This is the use of the piece of property, not their in-flight.
Yeah, not after they take off or land.
Yeah, not where they're flying in flight.
Yeah, so is it legal or illegal under our ordinance if somebody wants to fly a remote control airplane?
if it's being taken off from that location and flying out from that location, we would have to look at the specifics of what they're doing.
So every child that buys one from Toys R Us that's flying an electric plane in the area could be cited for a code violation. I'm being serious here.
No, I understand.
No, what's the answer?
I don't believe that it would become a conditional use for landing and taking off of a toy.
What constitutes a toy?
This is a big toy.
Yeah. Again, if the Board of County Commissioners believes that this should be a permitted use in these districts.
My opinion.
Chairman? Yes, let me ask you, when they do the hot air balloon, they do that on commercial property, kind of the same thing? Is that not a good use? I see them all the time in Pasco. They have events. I'm just asking.
Right.
I've seen, I think they've taken off from our parks before.
Right, so in a case like that, they would also have to come through some type of authorization, whether it's a temporary use permit or some type of permit activity.
Okay, well, I guess we're gonna hear from somebody and then we're gonna vote.
I know, I just don't know why this.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons we're here is because they take off the land and cross a person's property next door that affects the person's way of life when they're have boarding and renting for horses, and these motors going across their property is causing her an issue. That's why they're here.
That's not why it's here. There's an objection.
For conditional use, but that's the objection.
Right.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the objection.
Right, so the conditional use sets standards for the use, for that particular use that is not considered customary and incidental to a residential use or an agricultural use that can typically occur on the piece of property.
So that's not a normal use.
Correct.
It's a conditional use in agricultural property.
That's correct, and
Like
that's why we're
some
here
other
today.
things are. Yeah.
And conditional use sets conditions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And in this particular case, there's even a condition regarding the fact that it is within the connected cities area as well.
Mhm. Okay. Let's hear from the applicant, I guess.
Barbara Bullhite, 2523 Permit Place, Newport Richey, Florida, 34655. On that other matter, I forgot to thank the county attorney's office and Joe Richards, and I sat down and said, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that. So, yes, I have concerns. We decided to go ahead and do the conditional use, even though all the things you say were all the concerns that both the property owner and myself had. But instead of litigating it, because the county has pretty strong armed enforcement, code enforcement, probably thanks to me. So we decided instead of litigating it, because that's what it would come to, because there was a code enforcement action initiated, neighbor complained, code enforcement action initiated. The response was you litigate it with the county or you go ahead and go through the conditional use process. So we subjected ourselves to this process. That's why we're here. Do I worry the precedent that's being set and some of these conditions that probably go too far? Yes, I do worry about that, because what you do here will impact other people as we go forward. To the north of this property, just to the north, you own property where there are radio-controlled airplanes that have no regulations. They have clubs, they have tournaments, they fly whenever, fly sunrise to sunset 7 days a week if they'd like. They have about a 20-year lease, renewed in 2014. So I worry about that. That use is right there. It's right to the north of both this parcel, the subject parcel, and the neighbor's parcel. So with that, what we have done is try to work with staff and achieve a balance. And not only, we came out with a recommendation from Planning Commission, a recommendation of approval. There's one nay vote there. We were asked by staff to come up with some more conditions. So the red line that you see is this couple-page document is the red line of what we came up with after to try to further condition this use. But can I say that my client's comfortable with these conditions? No. Do they want to be able to move forward and she wants to be able to use her property? Yes. So that's where we're at. We do have a presentation by Mr. Randy Crouch that can show you about power paragliding, in particular on this property. And so if you'd like to see that, we can present that, and then can come back and talk about the conditions after we hear from the neighbor who understands here.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Randy Crouch, address 19248 Sunset Bay Drive, and that's in Land O'Lakes. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present, that's going to mirror this presentation, if you will, just a hard copy of this.
Let's receive a file.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
See the clerk.
This is really going to give a background not only into the sport, the subject that we're talking about, subject matter, it's also going to give case relevance to this actual piece of parcel. The first slide here, and it's just a copy of the survey of the property. Next slide, please. This is now a Google shot of said property, and how we have it outlined here is the piece that we actually use. And this is also to illustrate the direction of travel as you see it launching to the west. As you see, there's McKendree Road on the left side, Tyndall Road to the north of that slide. So that's if we was to give a launch, if the wind was coming from the west as a sea breeze, that's the direction of travel and the route that we would go as in climb out. Next slide, please. That same thing is just transposed onto the survey just for situational awareness. Okay, if this right here, make sure that volume is down halfway. This is actually, before we start, this is a video of me, and I was actually videoing one of my other counterparts, friend of mine, taken off from Ms. Roth's property. That right there, I wanted to show, is to elaborate to Barbara was saying, that is the RC field that you see right in those squared off. What? We have to do this. Oh. It has to be opened into yeah, there you go. Okay, so pause it, please. Okay, so right here, I'm right over Ms. Roth's property, the piece of the land that we're using for takeoff. We are taking off to the west towards McKendree Road. I'm flying over. One of my friends is getting ready to take off. You see our two vehicles parked there, and the wing is laid, as we call a wing, as some may look at it as a parachute, the power paraglider on the setup and getting ready to take off. The property, this line of trees you see there over to the right, and then further, that's the neighbor Gina's property. Also, I want you to look at, as many cases as we do when we launch, there's absolutely no livestock right there in the presence of when we take off, so we never really see anything to disturb anyway. All right, you can play it, please. That altitude right there is approximately 300 to 400 feet. And there's my friend taking off. And now he is airborne. So I turned. Now I wanted to focus on the adjacent property. Still, there's no livestock at all, if there was no movement whatsoever. Thank you. Next slide. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Thank you. This is if we were using the property to take off in an easterly direction. We would take off, lining up right there against McKendree Road, and we would launch, and we would never go over the neighbor's property. We have enough real estate where we can safely take off and then bank to the north or to the south. So we would never have to go over and make a disturbance to that property on takeoffs, which takeoffs, considering, is the most noisiest because we have the motor full throttle. We have to gain a safe altitude to clear any obstacles and to get it to reach that safe, comfortable altitude of normally 200 to 400, 500 feet. Next slide, please. That is overlaying the same data overlaying the survey. Next slide, please. Now, this right here is actually a landing. Now, on landing, we have to, we come down, and usually at a common practice is to have the motor at idle or have it turned off completely, which is really the only sound you hear is the wind coming through the sails. Very, very quiet. If we were landing and the wind is coming from the west, like a sea breeze, we would our glide path would be coming over the property, but it would be relatively 100 to 200 feet up, and then we'd come and then safely end where those arrows finish, where I had the tape established finish. Next slide, please. And that's just transposed on the survey. This right here, now I need the video turned up all the way on this one, please, video 2. This right here is going to give you a direct example of that illustrated glide path on landing. And if the volume's up, I want you to hear that motor you hear in the background. That's the ATV park that's down the street that really is the concern. That's revving of the motocross and ATV park that's just a little bit further north on McKinley Field.
Is that Chad's? Chad's?
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, you could hear that over the wind going through my fellow partner right there's friend, sail, and the revving of the ATV that's really going down the street. So that's a typical landing of what we do. Next slide, please. Here is another landing coming in from the north when there's a south wind. No sound to it. You just heard my voice over that. So, and then I think we could go to. All right, this would be a landing from the west if we was to come in that direction. If there was a south wind, we would always want to land or take off, as you can see, into the wind for safety purposes. And this type of aircraft, we're almost subject to the same barriers of Mother Nature as a hot air balloon would have. Next slide, please. That's that same data over the survey. This is another landing coming in from the south.
Yeah, you need to put that on silence, please.
I think it would be video 4, video 5. Oh no, 4 does work. Okay. You hear the dog barking over that. So, all right, and now for just to wrap things up, I want to play video 6. That is actually this, and you can turn the volume down halfway, if you will, or to a normal. This is a launch, and this is a launch from her property on the backside. I'm sorry it's flipped, but bear with me. I apologize for that. So there you can just test, you know, how it sounds. That's your typical launch of where we would, in this sport, would do compared to the landings. Next slide, please. This right here is, I just wanted to, it's video 3, this is very pertinent. Before you play the video, I want to talk to this. This is when I was flying over about 200 feet up, flying down Tyndall Road, which is that dirt road that you see going from the bottom of the screen to the north. And I wanted to draw your attention to the up part of the screen. There is 2 horses there, a brown one and a tan one, right to the top of the screen, just south of that gray barn right there. And I want you to pay close attention now. I've got my motor on the normal operation sound to maintain level altitude. And due to the nature, I wanted to call to your attention to this slide. There is no disturbance to these 2 horses as contrary of the neighbor's complaint. Please play video 3. Those horses never moved, and that's the normal of the neighbor's claim is we're disturbing. There is no disturbance. I think quite frankly that the livestock that she may have is gone accustomed to the noise from the RC field that's across the street and to the ATV park that's going out. I think they've become immune to any other sound disturbances or visual for that matter. And let's see, there's another picture, still picture of typical flying. Really is to limited or no livestock presence during our flights. Next slide, please. This right here, FAR Part 103.1, is how the FAA categorizes and regulates what we do, power paragliding. We are a 254-pound dry weight, under 254 pounds of dry weight. So this is a part of regulation the FAA established back in the 70s or 80s, I can't remember when, but anything that actually fits on a human that takes them off the ground, they had to put that under an umbrella. And this is the regulation that really defines that. Part 103, Part 1, and 103, Part 1.5. And the Part 1 defines us as how we're regulated and controlled by the FAA, which is very lax, but they have to control something. Anything that humans come off the ground with. Part 1.15, I wanted to draw your attention to that because that defines what a congested or populated area by the FAA standards of where we cannot go, or even a certified aircraft go below 500 feet. If you read that, no persons may operate an ultralight vehicle, which we are categorized as, any congested area or city, town, settlement, or over an open air assembly of persons. There's for further reference, the link to that where I pulled that information from. Next slide, please. This is a publication that's produced, I believe, quarterly from the FAA in part of their aviation or air nav charts that give a multitude of information. It's basically a roadmap of the skies. This piece out of it, I wanted to show, defines what is considered on the map by the FAA as a congested or populated area. It's defined as a yellow encased area. Next slide, please. Now, this is a sectional published by the FAA. You see the date is current of 16 August 2018 to 31 January of 2019, so it's current, depicting our area, the greater Tampa area, of what's classified as congested and what isn't. That is on the picture that's on the left. The picture on the right, I wanted to draw your attention to the red box that I have up there. That box symbolizes where we actually fly, where this piece of property in question is operating. As reference, you can see the blue line that goes from left to right there, that little purple or magenta circle is Pasco County Pilot Country Airport off State Road 52, so just for reference. But anyway, as you see in that red box, that is not considered any kind of congested area, very far away from the closest congested area labeled by the FAA would be Zephyr Hills. So that, by definition of that, literally we could, without causing damage to person or property, could fly 6 inches off the ground if we wanted to, and say it was an open field, as long as we're not causing damage to property or person. Next slide, please. And that's really all I have. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
Just a comment real quick. I mean, considering where I see them flying in parts of Pasco County, which I consider congested over roads and highways and stuff, this is a much better option in my opinion.
Correct.
Out where I live.
For now.
You see them,
going
going over 56 and 75 on a pretty consistent basis. I'm kind of fearful for that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So this makes more sense, obviously.
And just to piggyback off that comment, I mean, me and the other friend I have in the video there, and maybe one or two others, we are a very small fraction of the amount of pilots that are flying in Pasco County. I know that. We're an elite group of hobbyists, and so we know one another. And there is roughly about 5 to 6 fine sites in Pasco County alone that I can rattle off to you right now, not including this one, that many, 20 to 30 pilots are currently using right now.
Okay.
So, you know, it's a growing activity. You know, they're putting them in Dodge Ram commercials now. So,
You're a brave man.
it's
I wouldn't do it.
aviation enthusiast. You know, what do you say? Yeah. So anyway, but the few guys, including myself, that practice from this property, they're requesting approval to continue such we are safely and self-conscious in mind. We want to be able to work and cause no ripples in the water, if you will. So, but it is a recreational activity. When we do have free time outside of work, we like to partake, just as the guys across the street and the RC Club do. So that's where I moved to continue to use this site as a hobby and a site of enjoyment for this activity.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Barbara? Is someone else, is there someone to speak to this item in opposition?
She wanted to go over
Or you
the
want to go over
conditions.
something?
I'm just going to wait. Why don't we hear, because you heard quite a bit now, why don't we hear
Right.
from the neighbor, and then let's come back and I'll
Okay.
wrap up.
Okay.
Okay.
Open
All right.
public comment.
So, Gina? Okay. State your name and address, please.
Gina Hester, 30520 Tyndall Road, Wesley Chapel. Before I start, I just want to address that the flyers across the street, the RC flyers, they don't fly over my property. And that's really my big issue, is they're not flying over my property. The guys on the street that have the, four-wheelers or whatever, they're not flying over my property. I'm talking about my property. And when I talk about my property, who owns my property is whoever owns the soil is owns from the heavens down to hell. In between there, now what happened with air flight, we have what they call navigatable airspace, in which the public has the right to transit without effect. A landowner's property has been set at the height of 500 in an urban or suburban area and 360 feet above the surface of the tallest structure in rural area. If the navigable space is a property owner's, then anything below that is trespassing. Air rights are the property interests of the space above the Earth's surface. Generally speaking, owners or renters, land or a business, including the rights and use, and develop the space above the land without interference by others. Now, the FAA, like he said, the 103 is more for hazardous operations, and the county needs to get involved with the drone ordinance, which is where nobody is on it, to a manned aircraft. And that's where there's been a gray area with the FAA, because where the county has to step in, and that's what the FAA had been talking to Amy about too. So the hazardous operation is, he read part of it, and I'm gonna read the other part of it. The section prohibits an ultralight operator from engaging in activities which jeopardizes the safety of persons or property on the ground or in the air. Persons who stand to suffer damage or injury to their property, which denigrates from the responsible use and enjoyment of it, which meets this test. The conditional use approval B, they shall fly a minimum of 400 feet over the property except to takeoff or landings and necessary circling. I have held a county boarding license since 2002. I have been boarding since 2003, and the men, when they're landing, are landing up to 10 feet over my property. And whether you see the horses in the shot or not, I did have a video at the planning meeting where they were right over their heads, and they did scare my horses. This shot that he had was probably maybe a little bit higher. Maybe they are getting used to it too, but they had been taking off and coming in at all different directions of my property, not just what he's stating here. If they stated just what they're staying here, I don't have that problem if it's one place, one direction, and one piece of my property, but they were flying into the front pastures, the side pastures, everywhere. And so that takes away my quiet use and enjoyment of my property. You know, it says quiet use depends on the right to enjoy the use and presence, particularly the residents, of the peace and without interference. You know, it's my property that I want to ride my horses on, and those things are loud. They're considered the size of a large lawnmower, and they're flying over my house, and I can't ride my horse. Nobody else can ride their horse because it scares them. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to get at. And then my other point is that in the required standard number use 2, the proposal use will not affect the deterioration and quality of life or property value in the immediate neighborhood. I feel it will. I feel that if I know that having an airfield next to my house is going to greatly affect my land and resale value. But the only way we could do that is have an appraisal and say before and after what my appraisal. But if I went to sell my property today, I don't believe it's at the same value it was 2 years ago with them flying off and using my property as a landing strip.
Okay, thank you.
And
for
that's
your
what I
comments.
feel.
Your time's up.
Oh, all right,
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call for any other, just to
Are
make
there
sure.
any others to speak against this
Or any,
item, or
any
anybody
public
to
comment?
speak to this comment? Pro or con? Okay.
Barbara Wilhite. So what we tried to do is write conditions that were very specific. You've heard me say this before.
Okay.
And what we did add exhibits, and Amy, Ms. Heiler, gave you the exhibits that do show those patterns, the takeoff pattern, they turn before their house, So we tried to add those things to provide clarity. The only condition that I've really struggled with is we added a condition here that talks about can only occur one day on the weekend. Because this is precedent, that really worries me that for all those people out there doing it, that now somebody may complain and they may have to go through this process, that we have limited this recreational use, this hobby, to say you can only do Saturday or Sunday. So I'll see what the board feels about that. I put it in there, but I worry about that because you're talking about, this is their recreation, this is their hobby, this is their activity. So, but whatever the balance is, the board feels is correct.
But in actuality, pardon me, they actually have 6 out of 7 days a week to do this activity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board members?
I did have a question.
Okay.
I have a question about what she read about the ownership of airspace above her.
Yeah, I don't.
That's FAA.
I don't necessarily agree with, of what she read or where she got that from. So trespassing and those concepts are difficult areas of law, and if there's some private remedy, I'm sure that can be pursued. But the FFA rule is 500 in an urban area. We've agreed to a condition that says 400, except for their landing and taking off. So we have conditioned to be more stringent than the FAA regulation in this condition.
And the direction we see them taking off and landing that we saw is what you're going to abide by?
Yes, if I may comment to that, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that is correct, but also to add to that, as depicted in the videos and the takeoff, you're talking about a 20-second window. We have a concept of launch. My theory is get up and get out. When we fly out of this, we don't want to circle around the same property. We take off, as you see, that time span, and we continue to go that route. So the minimum disturbance in the area is limited to 20 or so seconds or less. And then when we're coming back, well, you saw how much noise that produces. Very much the wind's going through the sail, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You heard my opinion. I don't even think this should be coming in front of us. To me, it's a dispute amongst neighbors if they have an issue, but.
Well, I entertain a motion. You can make that motion to include all the restrictions are asked, or they presented, or you can take one away, or you can.
Again, now it comes back to the fear that I mentioned earlier, is that now we're putting conditions on something. So every time one of these comes up, every time somebody's going to fly this or fly something else, or we're going to start seeing all these. I mean, we're going to turn into the parachute police here.
Well,
we're setting a precedent.
I understand,
We're
but the condition
of my house every day.
of 7 to dusk should work for anybody.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they fly at night. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy. But
Now, the only one that might be an issue would be, and you got other people out in this area, but as long as they don't affect people every day they're off, which a lot of people are off on weekends, they want peace and quiet. So, of course, you still got motorbikes and everything else that run down the road that make the same kind of noise. So
you've got lawnmowers. You have.
So, but I'll entertain a motion to set this the way it should be.
I'm going back to, again, my concern about us setting a precedent here with certain conditions. So I know that we almost have two separate issues going on here. You have one where somebody wants an approval, but are we setting, again, a precedent for the future of setting these conditions?
Well,
this thought is, but
so we had.
We're going to start taking these things up every week.
We had something similar, I think, when Chad's property came up. And the neighbors around were also concerned about, who was here?
I was
Jack,
here.
you were?
It was right when I came on.
Yeah, so, but I think your issue is a discussion for another day, because I don't think we can change the land development rules here, what has to come in for conditional use today. So.
Well, it's either you approve it with conditions or you approve it with no conditions.
Amy, the condition about looking in the future of Connected City, what was that condition?
Okay, so it's going to be
Is
your
that what
recommended
affected?
condition 1. So it puts a time restraint on their allowable use for 10 years. Connected City has a projected build out at about 10 years. Where they're located is within the business core, which is essentially all high rises, high density, little to no residential if they decide to opt in. So what it is within, the permit shall expire within 10 years after approval unless the applicant initiates in writing a request for the county to conduct an administrative review to extend the expiration. So it becomes on the applicant to come in and request a review to see if the use is still consistent with the area, and the county administrator or designee would take a determination.
Can I go back to real quick? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, I'm scared to set a precedent. You know, where I live, I don't know anybody that flies one of these. I mean, first time I've seen this gentleman, but same with the hot air balloons. Those things fly over my house probably 3 or 4 times a week. Well, hold on, 3 or 4 times. You know, I see them all the time. Now,
let me ask
does
you
it?
this.
Hold on. Does it bother somebody? I don't know. This, of course, this young lady, she has issues with it. It bothers her. The rest of the people, like where I live, I don't know if it does or doesn't.
Yeah.
But I literally see these constantly. I mean, so how many are out there? How many were getting conditioned? Every place across the county that a hot air balloon now or a paraglider takes off, we're going to start doing this?
If I could just add one thing that's kind of interesting that I learned, which is it's a self-regulating sport because there's only so many places you can do it safely, and that's why we agreed to that condition, because if it does develop, like it's envisioned for Connected City, they won't be doing it anyhow. Because it's self-regulating, they got to operate in a safe manner. So the time of day that they do it is because there's only a certain time of day you can do it because of the weather, just like hot air balloons. So even without writing any of these conditions, because of the weather, they're not doing this activity all the time. And in the areas where they do it, we're going to pick an area, 20 acres in ag, where you have the RC airplane field right next door. I'm worried that what will you do to the next one? If this one's got to be conditioned, what are you going to do to the next person? So.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, what I was going to ask you, Mike, you'd approach it by not having a vote on this at all, and it just happens?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm
But
wondering,
then-
what you're saying when you
but there's
say
there's
you don't want to
it's-
set a precedent.
It's either, well,
Okay,
yeah, I don't like that at all either, but
Okay.
but now we're voting on certain conditions. So that's where I think this precedent possibly comes into the future, is when we start implementing these conditions on this, the next one that comes in, do they have to have the same conditions? We're gonna make up new ones, we're gonna figure out what works for everybody? Or is it a thumbs up, thumbs down, we're letting these people do it or not, and forget the conditions?
so,
I don't think we should be voting on this at all. I think after this meeting, we need to fix our LDC. But that's
Well,
another story.
I guess should we have any condition on any day, just let it be any day, and it can't, I mean, the condition of 7 to dawn is, or to dusk, is that a problem? That's daylight.
Again, I'm not saying I have a problem with certain conditions. I have a problem with
They're not
setting
gonna do it at
conditions
night, I
in
don't
general.
believe, so they
In
can't
general,
see.
there's a big difference.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You know, one of the things about, at least if we do step in and make this motion, we take care of this isolated situation. If others go around and maybe they don't, they're more conscious of where they flew they had the flying patterns, so they wouldn't bother, et cetera, maybe it would never come before us if these people work differently about it. But at least by regulating this one, we're dealing with a situation where we try to deal with motocross out there as well. At least we're handling one situation. If the rest of them come up, we can take a closer look at it and maybe go through the LDC to change what we've got there. But at least you're taking care of a situation that's a problem and you can regulate it. So that if they don't behave, let's say, we can then go pull it.
How will we get so how are we gonna regulate this now? So now we're regulating this. I just, and I understand, again, the person that's opposing its concerns. I just wish they could work it out amongst themselves. Because how are we gonna regulate? Are we gonna start sending, we're gonna send our code enforcement officers out any day of the week to check the people flying these things? Is that gonna be a new gig for them?
That's the way
Well, it's
it
the
is
same,
regulated.
it's the same as any conditional use you
Anything else you
issue.
But we're adding one now. Now this is new. I don't know how often our code enforcement officers are traveling out, answering calls on paragliders or remote control airplanes around the county. Now, when
but
we
the
do
point,
this,
Commissioner,
now they're going to be doing this, and I'm sure we'll get a lot more calls.
But the point, Commissioner, is that any conditional use you issue is then subject to code enforcement enforcing those conditions. And so it's no different than any other, it's no different than the motorcycle track. It's no different than any of the things that you deem not a permitted use on the piece of property. In fact, those permitted uses that you put on pieces of property have a site plan that then code enforcement goes out on.
Right. And Mr. And I understand that, and I get it. Now we're adding something new. In essence, we are adding something new.
Well,
the precedent is if you say that you can do whatever you want on a piece of agricultural property that is not defined in your land development code because we haven't defined it, it's permitted. That's a bigger precedential
yeah, that's the worst precedent.
issue.
Yep.
And I just wanted to
Okay,
clarify that
Denise?
there's a specific enumerated conditional use stated in the land development code that talks about landing areas, helicopter landing pads, landing fields, and this is what it was considered. So it's similar to the use.
You're right.
And that determination was made by the former planning and development director sometime in 2017, and it was specifically addressing this code violation, and that's why we're here today.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move approval with the noted conditions,
With the what?
with the conditions added by staff.
As they're presented, okay.
Amended.
I got a motion?
Well, a second for discussion.
Okay, in discussion.
There was one that she mentioned that they really had an issue with, and I thought you said it limited them to one day on the weekend, but I don't see that.
Yes, it's condition 1, sentence 3.
It limits them to either Saturday or either Sunday.
I don't have that on mine.
Takeoffs and landings shall only occur on one day of the weekend. It's
So
not,
that's not on this, it's on.
it's the one that was handed out to you.
We've given you lots of pieces of paper, so sorry about that.
My condition 3 says powered paraglider takeoff.
No,
landing.
condition 1,
Oh,
sentence
one.
3.
Sentence 3, sorry.
Sentence 3.
Yeah, well, I would strike that one. Well, can I ask one more question under discussion? How many times do they take off? Is it one time a day?
So
Or would they?
the condition
one
limits
person-
It's
four.
four.
Yeah, 4 takeoff landings. One
Per
take-
person? Or per,
It's
Group?
basically limits it to
Per
4
day.
people doing this a day, because they take off and then they gotta land.
okay, but
So-
do they take off land, take off land, take off land?
No,
No.
they could,
But
One
they
person
can
could
do it
take
up
off
to
and land 4
4
times,
If
or
there's
4
4
people
people
could-
and the 4
yeah.
people take off, the 4 people come back and land, they're done for the day.
and we condition it so others can't land. So it's
And that was
to try to
before the
reduce,
Plan Commission,
to
'cause
try
I
to
know
reduce
that was
some of
part
that
of
activity.
Okay?
Yeah.
Chairman, real
Yes.
quick. Denise, just so I'm clear, this isn't a permitted use now, even though you're trying to put it under the helicopters and so forth. Is the idea for us to add something like this, so it is a use in the LDC? Is that our plan as a board to move forward to do that in the next year or two, whenever we get to it? Is that kind of what the board wants to see
That's at the
done?
pleasure of the board.
I mean,
We
just so
probably
it's,
need to look at
just so it's
those.
permitted use, I'm saying if that's the case, then maybe we need to say 10 years, or when the land development code, we figure out the permitted use that way. Because I understand what Commissioner Moore's saying, I had an issue with the whole thing with the gentleman Chad Reed. I think it's a land rights thing. I kind of feel the same way here, but I understand where she's coming from too, taking off and landing right over her property, so.
So with respect to the 10 years, that's actually a different situation. It's addressing protecting connected city.
Okay.
So the growth of
Okay,
connected city.
That's a total
Okay.
different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I kind of agree with the applicant that if buildings get built, they're not gonna fly into them.
Yeah,
If they're in
Yeah,
their
they're-
landing and takeoff zone, then they're gonna go find another place to take
Right.
off.
And I think that's right.
I'm not even sure I agree with that 10-year. I think it should be other conditions.
Okay. We'll have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Is the weekends change?
Motion passed.
We need a clarification. Was the weekend, the one day and the weekend removed?
That was part of the
As part of the
motion.
motion.
That was
Thank
part of
you.
the motion.
Thank you.
Whoa. The commissioner didn't move to amend that.
No.
So it
I
was,
didn't hear anyone
it
else
is, it
agree.
is as submitted by
As
staff.
submitted, yes. Okay? P10.
I'd like to take this opportunity. I'm Carol Roth, 9432 McHenry Road, Wesley Chapel. It's really San Antone, but the post office is confused. I want to thank you. This means a very great deal to me. I'm handicapped. I would love to fly with them. I used to fly planes. I can't anymore. And we do our best not to disturb others.
Okay.
It's just our enjoyment. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comments.
You
Thank you. P10.
Oh, hold on.
Good afternoon, Derek Berger, Real Property Planning Division.
You got, hold it. Got proof?
Yes. Okay. I went to P9. Hold on.
I got P10 on mine.
Okay. It's not on the list, but I do have P10. It was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, 12/28/2018 and 1/4/2019.
Okay.
The Real Property and Planning Division received a petition to vacate a platted utility easement, 9943 Markham Street. This is in the Moon Lake Estates subdivision. The petitioners recently purchased a home that was a mobile home that was permitted back in 1999. When they got the survey, they realized there was an encroachment 2 feet onto the utility easement. So they're asking that they vacate just the footprint of the mobile home. And with that, the staff approves recommendations.
I do.
So there's no objection from staff to the vacation, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's no objections to the vacation, and staff recommends approval.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to P10? Seeing no
Well,
one?
You need to open it for any comment.
Anybody that has not signed up, or anybody to opposition or pro?
Seeing no one, move approval?
Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, pass. Thank you. All right, that's the last item. Any old business that you didn't get to discuss and you thought about before we adjourn? Seeing none or hearing none, we adjourn.